we have vaccines for you. So get in touch with the clinic so that you are on the list and you can be part of these pods. We do not want the state taking our vaccines back and missing out on making sure people are safe. So that's our call out. And meanwhile,
yeah, and they should be calling me this week. I mean, because like I've got spots to fill by Friday, and if there's somebody on there that wants it, they need to call me at the sheriff's office.
What's that phone number?
384-2851. They need to call me because I'm the one doing all the scheduling for this pod for public health. And see, and that's the other thing too, is when public health does their pods down in the Dalles, they just advertise a date and a time, and they shove out a registration website that people can go on and register and get an appointment. Well, we don't have that capability out here really to push out to as many people because a lot of people don't have internet or they don't have computers. So that's why we're going through our actual patient lists of both ends of the county at the clinics trying to find people.
So are you the person to contact for either the pod here or in Arlington?
The pod in Arlington would be Dave.
Dave.
Yeah.
So call the clinic in Arlington.
So call the clinic in Arlington for David's pod down there. 454-2888.
Yeah, I reached out to a couple residents last night after I talked to you that had asked me Sunday when they were going to get vaccinated. They're over 65, so they should.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure what the situation was with Arlington, but I said if you just getting on the list, don't make sure you're not just on the list. Make sure you're scheduled for a vaccination, or call Chris.
Yeah.
Because then they could go to Condon.
Yeah, we had, according to OHA's spreadsheet, that last one I saw, we had 591 people that were eligible over the age of 65 for vaccinations in Gilliam County. But again, when you're talking, as many people we've had said no, it's kind of hard to weigh those numbers, so.
all right, thanks, Chris. Any other public comment? If not, let's go into correspondence, and wanted to note that there is the Special Projects Grant Program final report from the Historical Society in the packet. We'll go ahead and just put this under correspondence as these come in. We'll expect to see more as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, but these are part of the reporting requirements with our competitive grants program, and so this is the first, I think, of many that we'll have coming in. And then I also wanted to note that there is a letter in here from Wayne Standiford regarding Senate Bill 554, which is one of the agenda items as well later in this meeting. So that, if for folks who are interested in reading Mr. Standiford's comments, that will also be posted with the court packet online. So I will not read that here. Let's go into consent agenda.
Missed that.
Who has their hand up? Catherine.
I had a quick, can we make comments when you guys are talking about Senate Bill 554 during that agenda item?
Please.
Of course.
Thank you.
Okay,
Questions about consent agenda?
No questions on the consent?
I do not have any.
I move we accept the consent agenda.
I second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of consider approval of February 17th, 2021 regular meeting minutes and consider approval of fiscal year 2021-2022 Gilliam County budget calendar. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, let's go into unfinished business, 5.1, which is Courthouse phone system update. IT coordinator Kelly Smith. Kelly.
Hey.
Hi.
This may or may not sit there nicely for me, so bear with me while I try and get situated on my lap. Okay. Good morning. morning.
Good morning.
So phone system update. As most of you know, and Pat, jump in if you have any questions. This has been a long ongoing project, so
Gotcha.
I'll fill you in on anything that comes up. So we were looking for a new phone system because, as we all know, ours is dying. A slow death. The parts are not supported any longer, and we're beginning to have issues with them rebooting and shutting off and the whole system going down intermittently. So we need to get it replaced. At the October 21st court meeting, I had presented 3 bids that I had gathered and recommended that we go forward with a bid from 8x8. And so the court agreed to go forward with legal review of the contract. The legal review of the contract, they had probably about 40 to 50 revisions that our legal counsel thought were necessary to make the contract acceptable for use. So I sent that into their legal review team, who said, we won't even consider this. We'll look at maybe 10. Give us 10 changes and we'll consider that. So we had legal review it again and pared it down to, I'd say it was probably about 15 changes that were the absolute minimum. And again, 8x8 came back and said, most of these we're not willing to make. And they gave us their final offer, which was included in the packet. I don't feel comfortable with it. I don't feel that it's giving us the protections we need. And then, as a side note, after I sent in the agenda item briefing, last week the salesman contacted me on Friday and said, oh, by the way, I should have mentioned this earlier, but we do have government contracting available. 4 months later, he mentioned this, and so that really makes me wonder about their customer service and if we want to work with a company like that anyway. So in a nutshell, what I'm suggesting is that we start over. I didn't have any second best options from the original bids received. So I would like to contact some local counties, look into some other businesses, ask up front about government pre-approved contracts, and see if we can find a better fit for Gilliam County. So I'm just looking for, I guess, approval to move forth with that, and any questions you guys might have on the process.
Well explained for me.
Yeah,
You need
it
to move forward.
sounds like an awful lot of fun for you.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, I agree. We need to.
And I don't think we need a motion, guys. I think we just need consensus. So it sounds like everybody's in agreement that we'd like to just go ahead and start that process over.
All right. We will get back to it, and I'll be back in a little while with some new information.
Yay, thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for all the time.
Thanks, Kelly. Okay, let's go into item 5.2, which is discuss resolution to Willow Creek IGA with dispute with Port of Arlington. So this is to follow up to our joint meeting that we held last week with the Port Board regarding resolving the IGA related to Willow Creek to that project. Where we left it to bring the public up to speed is we had a joint meeting in Arlington. There was a tentative proposal put on the table where we would basically scrap the old IGAs related to the project, create a new IGA to replace them, and the new IGA would essentially say that the $60,000 or $600,000, remaining of the congressional earmark, this is the $800,000 that's left minus the $200,000 the port wanted to spend on the Bronquist building, would be used on a mutually agreed upon project benefiting the whole county. And so where we left it was that both of the governing bodies were going to take it back to a regular meeting to discuss. And then if both parties agreed that this is the direction we wanted to go, then we'd get our legal counsels together to put together a revised IGA that then would have to go to both governing bodies for approval. So with that, I would open up the floor and just see where we are, commissioners, in terms of that sort of tentative proposal, if we think that that is the direction we want to go in to resolve this with the court.
Yeah, I reached out to both Director Mitchell and Ron, President, and I think they're good with what we arrived for a decision in that meeting. I think they're willing to move forward. I saw their agenda, and it is on the agenda to go ahead with the purchase of the building. And the one thing I wanted to know is we've got a joint agreement to a project, and should that be projects in case you want to use part of the funds for something smaller that was agreed on rather than tying it to just one project?
I'm okay with leaving it flexible.
Yeah, for sure.
That was my only question. It might, something may come along where they need to, be wise to use $100,000 or something for something to help move it forward, and they'd still have remainder left. And as long as we were all in agreement, why not do that?
Yeah, I agree with that. We do need to leave ourselves flexible so that we can spend the money how we collectively agree. And so I think we just need to move forward and find a IGA with the wording that satisfies both the court and the court. And I don't think that should be very difficult.
No, I think it'll be an easy process.
Okay. So what I think I'll do then, if we're all on board, is I will go ahead and circle back with Peter, and maybe just because of how long sometimes it takes for our council to turn things around, I'll see if they want their council to take the first stab or if they would like us to draft it. And then obviously assuming that the port board's on board with this as well.
Yeah, I think they'll be willing to do that. They talked about drawing up an initial one even before the meeting the other day, and so we might want to wait until we get through that process, but I think they'd be willing to do that. I think Ruben would do that.
Okay, great. I'll reach out to Peter this afternoon then and get that moving, assuming that they'll want to be on board when they meet. They meet next week, I think, so I don't know if they will want to officially do that next week, but I'll at least let Peter know that we're on board with this if they would like to move forward.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Perfect. Great. Anything further on this particular item?
Not for
No.
me.
Okay, if not, let's go into 5.3, which is Condon Chamber of Commerce COVID final grant report. And I think I heard Kaylin in the courtroom. And I think I see her. So, good morning.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning to members in the audience and to our county commissioners and staff as well. In the face of the COVID-19 pandemic, businesses all over Oregon were suffering from economic distress. The Court of Gilliam County wanted to provide stabilization and recovery assistance to small businesses and their employees as a bridge before state and federal funding became available. In collaboration with regional efforts, the county needed a convener to facilitate the grant program. The Condon Chamber of Commerce was selected as the convener and focal for businesses in Gilliam County. A solid partnership with strong leadership of entities tied to the business community and economic development was important for rapid program mobilization. A key to making this grant program a success was having a strong group of partners with aligned purpose, vision, and mission. As part of the process, the Chamber convened a small business stabilization committee made up of local community partners that included representatives from Gilliam County, the Bank of Eastern Oregon, Columbia Basin Electric Cooperative, the City of Condon, the City of Arlington, the Port of Arlington, and the Columbia Gorge Small Business Development Center. The Stabilization and Recovery Plan was designed to work in conjunction with local, state, and federal stabilization and recovery grants and loan programs as they became available. The outcome, within 3 weeks of first being contacted by the county, the Gilliam County Small Business Stabilization Grant Program was launched. And by the third week of April, $94,000 $560 of grant funding was dispersed to businesses countywide. Our program was then used as a guide across the state of Oregon for several counties and economic development groups to mobilize within their communities to help the small businesses. When the state allocated the funding to the individual counties, the Chamber asked again for the opportunity to continue administering the COVID relief funding. Following the same process as before described, a COVID relief committee was established, and by December 30th, a total of $666,000 was administered in COVID stabilization and relief and revitalization funding. As the convener for Gilliam County Small Business Stabilization Grant Program, the Chamber strengthened its relationship with the business community as well as its regional partners. We cannot thank the county court enough for this opportunity to help our small businesses get through these challenging times. In total, 82 applications were processed with 56 successful grant requests. What a year it has been, and what an honor it was to administer the COVID assistance grants to our businesses. I again would like to thank the county for this opportunity. We hope you've seen the value in working with the Chamber of Commerce and would like nothing more than continue to be of service to our communities. I would like today to ask the court to consider the Chamber to continue to be the grant administrator for the Small Business Grant Program on behalf of Gilliam County, and ask the commissioners and the judge to consider making the commitment for 5 years for the Chamber to allow us to set a solid foundation for a successful small business grant program to ensure the sustainability and economic prosperity for our businesses within Gilliam County. We know the opportunity to help businesses is great, and the need for assistance is even greater. We'd like you to allow the Chamber this opportunity to help Gilliam County better serve its businesses and continue to support the long-term economic and sustainability of our Gilliam County small businesses. Thank you again for your time and consideration. If you have ideas or thoughts as how the Chamber can continue to be of value to the county, we would like nothing more than to hear how we can be of use and of value. Are there any questions?
The one question I've got was the original 150,000, did that come out of the CARES Act? Or was that out of the Gilliam County budget?
So originally when we approved it, it was before we knew that there was going to be a CARES Act. And so it came out, originally the funds came out of the small business loan program that's funded through our host fees. And then once the CARES Act was passed and we saw what those funds could be used for, we ended up getting reimbursed for those. So yes and no. The original funds came from waste management, but then they were reimbursed through the CARES Act and went back into that account.
Okay, that's kind of what I understood had happened. I just wanted to make sure I got it right.
Yep, you're right. Other questions for Kaylin?
No, it was really amazing to see how extensive the list was of the people that got assistance. That's the first time I've seen it. And I might have some suggestions if we go further with other grant programs that might, we ran into a few problems in the community and a few issues, and I think there's some things we could do to alleviate that.
Okay.
So I definitely, go ahead, Sherry.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I definitely would like for us to discuss the idea of having sort of a long-term commitment for the program and having stable funding related to that. And then the other thing I want to throw out, because if Nathan was sitting in the room, he would say this as well, is I think this might also be a potential opportunity for the county to stop being the bank with our loan program, and that it might be worthwhile for us to have a discussion about if the chamber or another local organization would want to maybe assume that grant or that loan program as well, and help with their sustainability, and also move that administration out from under the county court, or the county rather. It's actually administered by the treasurer's office, but that's something I know that Nathan has a frustration about, that he expresses from time to time, is that, you know, we don't have the expertise to originate loans and manage that. We do it because we have to, but it may be a good partnership to look at to see if a local organization was willing to take that on the county's behalf. So I wanted to throw that out there, that that's something else I've been thinking about.
Yeah, I'd like to see the program to continue, and if the chamber's willing to take that on, I think that would be a benefit, not just to the community, but also to the county itself administratively.
Yes, and as I mentioned, whatever the chamber can do to continue to be of value and service to Gilliam County, we want to absolutely step up to serve that role. We are looking to be sustainable. And in that process, we know that we're going to have to look at different opportunities. So thank you guys again for what you allowed us to do this past year.
Thank you for all the work you did.
So
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
thank you, Judge Farrar.
Thank you. So for next steps, commissioners, on this particular one, is this a conversation? I mean, typically what we would do is we would look at probably crafting a memorandum of agreement or understanding with the chamber, and then obviously those funds would have to be approved by the budget committee during that process. So is that something you would like me to start a conversation with the chamber about? Or do you want to have some more time to think about the grant program?
I would like just a little bit of time to think about it. And I mean, I think it's a good idea, but I want to chew on it a little bit.
Okay. So maybe what I'll do is we'll keep it on our list of things, and maybe here in the next, you know, maybe not next meeting, but the first one in, say, April. We could maybe revisit and see, just so if we're wanting to move forward, we'll probably need to earmark something in the budget. So just want to make sure we have that conversation before the budget cycle starts.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yep.
All right. Let's go on to 5.4, which is discuss the adoption of resolution to oppose Senate Bill 554. Pat.
I guess I'm going to start with I'm in opposition. I'm really new to the legislative process, and I'm kind of using this bill to walk me through it a little bit, but I've been, like I've stated, participating in the Eastern Oregon Leadership Calls weekly and getting a feel for that and watching them go through some of the legislation. This is a really, really tough session with COVID, and they're struggling. It's a mess. And so it's been interesting to listen to the frustration coming out of, I won't even say it's coming out of Salem, because a lot of it's coming out of their offices and their homes. But since they can't convene personally, face to face, and it's just been a real struggle getting anything to move forward. But and that being said, this seems to be moving rather slowly. But I am in complete opposition to this bill because it just flat out, to me, attacks the Second Amendment. It's really targeting the most vetted gun owners in society, and it doesn't do anything for the felon that they let out of prison because they released him on the COVID requirements, that picks up a gun and walks into any building he wants without a concealed license and does whatever he might do. So I just don't think this bill targets anything that helps society in any way, and that it's really sets citizens that do things correctly up to get in trouble accidentally, even. But what happened to walk into a building that they didn't see the sign or whatever, and the fines, you know, it's 5 years in prison, $125,000. And so I am just opposed to this bill in every way that I can speak about it. And I would like to, make a motion today to drop I don't completely understand the process for adopting or drafting a resolution, maybe you can help me with that, Judge. But making a statement to Salem, however we need to do that, or, you know, if you don't agree, I still think we need to vote on it.
Well, I agree with a lot of what you said. I understand where, you know, what the intent might have been, but I totally think they're going about it in the wrong way. They are targeting the honest people that are being vetted, and we have more and more concealed weapon permittees than ever before. The sheriff's office is actually overwhelmed with, just in Gilliam County, with the number of people that want one. And I've reached out to the sheriff and our emergency coordinator. I've read this bill more than once. I've read it to several people to help us understand what they're saying. I've talked to concealed permittees, as I'm surrounded by them and friends and family. To me, I agree. This isn't the target that we're trying to eliminate from bringing weapons into a building. These aren't the criminals. They're criminalizing people that have followed the law and done what they're supposed to do. And so in that way, I agree. I don't like guns myself. I don't think anybody needs to carry a weapon anywhere, but that's just my personal feeling. And so, you know, that being said, I just don't think this is what they really want to do. So I agree.
It just seems it's almost kind of ludicrous to me. You let felons out of prison, you decriminalize drugs, and you think gun violence is going to go down, and that, you know,
well, it's
recovery for addiction is going to go up is mind-boggling to me.
This doesn't target the people that have an intent, because they don't care. This law means nothing to them. They're going to bring their gun in here and do whatever. I mean, this building is supposed to be gun free anyway, but the door's wide open. So, you know, I brought it in my purse because I have it concealed, or somebody off the street's mad at us and wants to come in. And this bill isn't going to do anything to stop that.
The other thing they're doing was raising the price to get a concealed.
Yeah, they're just targeting the law-abiding citizens, as far as I'm concerned.
Can I add a couple points?
Yes, please.
Do I have to come up there?
Well, you might want to come closer so that we can pick up your voice.
Is that Gary?
Yes.
Okay, I thought I recognized.
So I just wrote some notes down about, of course, I'm opposed to anything that restricts guns, you know, where the Constitution gives, you know, a citizen the right to bear arms. And you know, I mean, there's limitations there. Sometimes it's gone way beyond the meaning of the Constitution, but the Constitution keeps getting redefined according to what our courts decide, unfortunately. But, you know, myself as a citizen have the right to bear arms. Gilliam County does not charge for concealed handgun licenses because they already have that right. They already pay for Chris's time and their taxes, so regardless of what the fees do here, it's not going to make a difference to us because we don't charge. We do have to charge the $15 for the Oregon State Police fingerprint charge. But the thing that scares me about this is, first of all, stripping people of their right after they've paid for it is one thing. And then just the confusion. Where can I take a gun? Where can I not take a gun? Those kinds of things. And, you know, I know from the business I'm in that a lot of what people do is because they're just confused about what the law is or what it isn't. And, you know, when they travel, say from Oregon to Washington or from, you know, Utah to Oregon doesn't recognize anybody else's concealed handgun licenses. So it's up to the individual sheriff as to whether they're going to arrest for that or just recognize the out-of-state license. So people don't understand all of that. You know, and we as a public entity, if we restrict weapons in our buildings, then are we going to provide them security? Because we still have a liability to keep those people safe while they're, you know, acting as the public in where they have a right to be. So I know in the bill, they mentioned something about, you're stripping people of their arms for providing armed security. That to me makes no sense. I mean, if you don't want guns in the building, then, it's a free-for-all, I guess, but. Yeah, the criminals, there's no way to check them. And I guess that's really about all there is. I mean, if we're gonna strip people of their rights to bear arms in public buildings, then we need to provide them that protection. And while we're trying to defund the police and, disarm them as well, for many tools that they currently have, then it's kind of pointless. So, thank you for your time.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Gary.
Great. And then, so the other thing I forgot to mention was that we also received a letter from Mr. Les Ruark asking us to not take action on the resolution. So I wanted to just note that for the record. He did not ask me to read that into the record, but for those who are interested in reading Mr. Ruark's comments, we'll go ahead and post that to the website as part of the court packet. Is there anybody else in the audience who wants to make a comment related to the resolution or to the bill?
I would say that I did respond to Les's email with an email, and that he was not aware that we had at least discussed it in the correspondence part of the week before, or the meeting before, and had said that we'd bring it up after we got a little more information. So he was a little bit unaware of some of what had been going on with the court prior to, and he is now. So just putting that out there.
Okay. Catherine.
Hi. I read through this Senate Bill 554, and I guess I don't have as big an issue with it for several reasons. One is that they're amending to basically give local control whether the city, the county, the port want to adopt a resolution without going through the state. I think that's actually a good thing, to give some local control over it, what Pat and Sherry and Gary have already said. But my main issue is actually following along Les's letter that I just read, is that this bill isn't even out of committee. This is not something to throw a hat in yet to say that it's stomping on our rights, when after a conversation with Representative Greg Smith during a city meeting 2 weeks ago, is they're not expecting many of these bills, 90% of these bills, to even come out of committee. It is not on the schedule of the Senate or the legislature. I just looked at it today. They have nothing planned to even discuss this bill at this time. I think it's premature. I agree with Les. I think it's premature to pass a resolution for something that's not even out of committee yet. So I would ask the commissioners I respect your opinions on this, not that I necessarily agree with them, but I would like you to hold off on this until we actually see if this bill moves forward. You meet in 2 weeks. I think in 2 weeks, we're going to know if it's actually going to move forward. From the testimony that they've received, that if you would read that, which I only read a few of them, most of it's against it. I don't foresee it moving any further. And according to Greg Smith, I think they had 1,000 bills drop, and they're only expecting to probably move 100 of them. And he also told the mayor of Arlington in that conversation that he would vote against any of this. So I just don't see the necessity of rushing this through. So I am hoping that you guys hold off on this, wait another 2 weeks, see if it's actually moved before you move forward with the resolution. Thanks.
Yeah, Catherine, I understand what you're talking about. How many amendments have there been that they've put forward too? I know there's at least six. At least 6 amendments have been drafted. So the bill is far from being complete to even move forward. And there's a discussion on Monday, on the 8th, about the bill again. So I agree. It could definitely die before it ever gets anywhere.
I disagree completely because this bill on its face is attacking the Second Amendment, and I do not believe that cities and counties should be in a position that they can attack the Second Amendment. You're just passing down something that chips away at it. And so I just completely disagree, and I think also that why do you want to wait till the bill gets some momentum if you disagree with it before you disagree with it? Disagree with it before, up front. If you're going to kill it, kill it.
Kill it?
Don't wait to kill it after it's moving. So I'm going to make a motion today to resolution, I think.
Well, I'm hoping that anyone that does that has submitted testimony to the legislature and through either our senator or through our representative. But I appreciate what you're saying. You and I were not going to agree, but
my conversation yesterday on the Eastern Oregon Leadership Call was, I went through a lot of the testimony and I attached some of it here, and this is by no means the math that's in the testimony that's on the bill right now, because I don't have time to go through all of it.
No.
But I can tell you what I looked at, and I shotgun through there and looked at, 30-2 is probably somewhere opposition to support from what I looked at. I don't know what the whole package looks like, but I made the comment to the legislators yesterday, there's no way they're all gonna read all that testimony. It's just not gonna happen. We can hope it would, but there's no way. So I think to make a stance that we're in opposition of it and send that message on is just lets them know where Gilliam County stands.
Are they going to care
I don't care
that
what
we
they
have a
care.
resolution?
Yeah, I think they care more as a county group than they would as an individual. As county court than they would an individual.
So on a process, from a process standpoint, there's a couple of ways that the court could go about this, and I'll just kind of throw out some different options. It sounds like there's maybe a consensus that the court would like to weigh in on this particular bill. So previously when we've weighed in on bills, we actually do that through, I'm trying to remember, I think we did it through a declaration, not a resolution. So that's just a clarity point, but not a big deal. So we could either draft a declaration that then would need to come to the court for approval, or another option would be just to write a letter that the court sends to the chairs or the members of the committee, the Senate leadership, I think is how we did it last time as well. So I guess I'm looking for, from the two of you, if there's an approach that you would prefer. My recommendation would be that whether it's a letter or whether it's a declaration, the court would obviously need to vote on that, the actual language. And so if it sounds like there's consensus that we want to move forward with that, we just need to decide which one of those and move forward with drafting and then put it back on the court's agenda to pass.
So in explanation, what's the difference in doing that in the resolution?
So the resolution typically, and I think our attorneys could probably explain this more, but the way it's been explained to me as a resolution is actually when the court is enacting not really law, but sort of. So when we're taking an actual legislative action, so we use that to approve purchases, surplus things, those kinds of things. When we're actually making a statement, then it's a different mechanism. It looks very similar, it's just the heading is a little bit different. So it would say, the Court of Gilliam County makes the following sort of declarations. It still has the whereas clauses, would still have the opposed, and Pat, we can show you when we weighed in on cap and trade what that looks like. But it looks very similar to resolution. It's just a technical difference that we use the resolutions for a different process.
And I don't necessarily care one way or the other as long as we take some sort of action and send a message. But I did see a resolution from, I believe it was Jackson County, on a bill several years ago. So that similar bill, I think it was more along the lines of background checks, and it was a Second Amendment issue also, but I did see that they had done one, that's why I asked.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and I may be mistaken about that, but my understanding was that the resolutions are typically like county business that we're doing internally, and that if we want to make a statement about something, then we use the declaration tool. So is there a feeling from you guys on whether you would prefer to do a declaration or draft a letter? And Pat, given your passion, are you up for drafting it?
Yes, I would draft it. And I think a declaration is better than a letter. So what would our process be there?
What's that?
What would the process be there for, would we have to draw it up 3 weeks and vote? Is that?
So all you would need to do is just draft it, and Teresa can dig up the one we did on cap and trade so you can see the format, but it has all the whereas clauses and things like that. And I wonder if some of the other counties, if they are drafting their own, you might even be able to borrow if there's one circulating and language that you like. And then we would just put it back on the court's agenda for an official vote on the actual document.
Okay, do we need a motion to draft the declaration then? Probably, huh?
I don't even think you need a motion. It sounds like there's consensus to go ahead and draft it.
What would come when the actual.
So you get that to me? Thank you.
Okay. So Teresa, if you can get the draft or the one that we used for cap and trade so that Pat can see how that format looks. And then I'm assuming other counties are probably weighing in, some of the eastern counties, so they may have some language we can borrow.
Yeah, I'm
And
not
then we'll
sure.
get it on the
Part of it is there is so much legislation out there that they're just kind of overrun with what's going on there. There's a rodeo bill they're concerned about, and there's the redistricting. It just goes on and on and on. And this one seems to be down, it's like the next level of what's coming forward. And they're voicing their concerns, but nobody's really done anything at this point that I've seen.
Okay. So you could be the first to draft, I guess.
Could be the first, but that's not bad. I've heard in the past that even if you're the smallest, you need to be the noisiest.
Okay, so we'll plan, and Teresa, if you could make a note to have that on for our next court meeting to get an official vote on it. And then if Pat, you can get us a draft, then we can wrap this up.
Okay.
Okay, anything further on that particular issue?
I have nothing.
If not, let's move into 5.5, consider approval of purchase of transportation vehicles. So this, let me just bring this up really quick. I think I've got it in my, this just is kind of a housekeeping piece. We, as you guys recall, I can't remember if it was last meeting or 2 meetings ago, authorized Marla to surplus a couple of vehicles to purchase 3 new ones. And when she presented it to me, I realized that we actually needed a formal motion to approve the purchase of the vehicles. So Marla has included in your packet bids from 3 different dealerships, and her recommendation is Rogers of Hermiston for a number of reasons. Not only is it the low bid, but they also do a lot of the servicing for the vehicles, and I think she's been really happy working with them. So, and I don't know if Marla's on, she can speak for herself too, but just in case she wasn't.
She's here.
I'm in the
Marla, did I get it?
What's that?
Did I get everything?
Perfectly.
Do you guys have any
Okay,
questions?
questions for Marla?
I don't have any.
Nope.
How quickly are they going to, are these on the lot? And
I'm gonna pick them up this afternoon.
yeah, I was gonna say, as soon as we say go, you're going, you're out of here.
Yeah, because it was kind of one of those, whoops, I kind of overlooked it. So yeah, I've already submitted the AP, but it doesn't go out to the 5th. So anyway, they said we could pick them up with the checks and we can just mail the checks in, so.
Okay. I move to approve the purchase of 2 Toyota Highlanders gas-powered and 1 Toyota Highlander hybrid from Rogers Toyota in Hermiston in the amount of $107,398.
I'll second.
Awesome.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the purchase of 2 Toyota Highlanders, which are gas, and 1 Toyota Highlander, which is hybrid, from Rogers Toyota in Hermiston in the amount of $107,398. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Were these in the budget?
Yes.
Yes.
Why, here's the second question. Why 2 gas and 1 hybrid? Just, that's what they had, or that's what you're
No.
trying to
ODOT's
convert to?
ODOT's pushing us to
Okay.
use the
Hybrid.
E
Mhm.
propulsion, and I wanted to try one before we commit to it, so that, I
Okay,
figured it'd be nice to have both and we could compare.
right?
If the repair maintenance is more, things like that, so we'd have a good benchmark going in if they push it a little more.
Good.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. All right, Marla, you're all set.
All right, thank
Okay,
you.
keep going.
Let's go into new business and we'll see if Dan is there. And we're in Columbia Gorge Community College funding request.
So good morning.
Wait,
Hi, Dan is here. I'm Marta Cronin, president of Columbia Gorge Community College. So we're here together to talk to you about our new construction project and the new programs that we think will benefit students in your county. So if I could just share my screen for just 2 minutes so I can show you an update on what we're talking about specifically. I'm sorry, Dan, if you wanted to say something, go ahead and jump in.
I was going to introduce you, Dr. Cronin.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Lisa, can you make sure that she can share her screen, please?
Working
She's
on
working on it.
Here we go.
Okay.
I got it. Thank you.
Share your screen.
Here we go. You should be able to see my screen right now. So let me just get in here and slideshow. Here we go. So I'm hoping you can see that it says Capital Construction Program. So as some of you might be aware, we've recently embarked on a new build on our Dallas campus, which includes a skill center and a residence hall. So this was all funded by different individuals. So $14.6 million the total of the project. We got $7.3 million from 11G bond money from the state, and $3.5 million was matched by our Wasco County and City of the Dalles partners. And the college picked up the other 3.8 in full faith and credit bonds at no cost to the taxpayers. So we broke ground in July, and currently they are putting up the drywall inside the buildings. It's expected to be completed, substantial completion by July for opening in the fall, which for us is September. So this is what the residence hall looks like from the outside, or will look like. So the residence hall will have 48 beds for students and 2 beds for resident advisors, or the people who will be supervising the students. So it'll have a couple of common areas where students can study and cook. Here's a common kitchen. It'll have a laundry facility, typical things of dorms. So here's the second floor, very similar to the first floor. There's a lounge upstairs for students, study halls or study rooms, and then the rooms across the hall. Oops, sorry. So when you come into the residence hall, here's the common kitchen is here. So what this will look like. These are the renderings at the moment. This is what the lounge will look like on the second floor. And so right now they are working inside the building. We've seen a lot of construction going on. We've seen it go up on the outside, and we won't be seeing a lot of changes to the outside for a while now because they're focusing on the inside. So this is the common kitchen for the students. So each of the rooms, there'll be quads. When you come in through the front door, right here to the left will be a little lounge area, and here are the 2 bedrooms. So the bedrooms are designed to house 2 students. When you come in through the front door, on the right-hand side would be the kitchen, little kitchenette area, which is really just a microwave and a refrigerator, and then the bathroom. But the rooms are designed to hold 2 students. Certainly, you know, they have options if they want to be in a room by themselves. That's a possibility. So these are just some renderings of potentially what it could look like. So we're here specifically to talk to you about the Skill Center. So the Skill Center is going to house some programs that we've done a lot of research. We've had some economic development data, surveys with local industry on programs that are very much needed in the Gorge. So if you've ever been to our Dallas campus, you might know that it used to be a hospital. So a lot of the facilities aren't amenable to programs that require large equipment like this. So this building is going to allow us to bring those programs on board. So one of the programs that we will have are welding, which will be our advanced metals fabrication program. It's a very popular program. We have students bussed in from different high schools to participate in this program. We'll also have our construction technology program, which we hear. And then we'll have an open lab, which right now we're thinking will include some things, perhaps like 3D printing, or the whole space will be very flexible. Whereas if industry changes 5-10 years down the road, we can easily swap out the equipment and put whatever is needed. So it's very important as a community college that we keep our finger on the pulse of industry changes. So we're hoping that this building will allow us to be able to change as industry needs evolve in our area. So it's just what one of the classrooms look like. This is a really big room that can be divided into 2. And a lot of the community, you know, uses our space for big meetings because there are not a lot of spaces available for that. So we designed this with that in mind as well, so that we can assist the community with those needs. So when you come into the building, we'll have a donor wall here. A lot of individuals are interested in supporting these industries because they're very much needed in the Gorge. So here are some classrooms will be over here. So just, again, this is what we're envisioning, and right now they are working on the inside. Here's the Flex Lab that I spoke about, which we're thinking right now will focus on 3D printing and things of that nature. This is what the welding or metals fabrication lab is expected to look like, with the welding stations lining the walls. And this is what our construction technologies lab will look like. So construction technologies is a survey kind of program where there's a little bit of plumbing, a little bit of electrical. These are all trades that are very much needed in the area. And so this is a design lab where they'll do projects related to their programs. So in October, they readied the ground and prepared to pour the slab. And they did pour the slabs for both the skill center and the housing. Then they started framing in November and continued putting the roof on in December. Then we got a little snow, had a little bit of delay, but we're on track. So the skill center, this is what it looked like just a few short weeks ago. And this is what the housing looks like. So currently, as I mentioned before, they are working on the inside. So we have a YouTube channel, Columbia Gorge Community College does, that you can watch the progress. It's a live construction cam, and every day you can see what goes on as far as construction goes. So we're very excited to see the project coming up. So specifically, we are here today related to a letter that Dan Spots wrote to Judge Farrar as far as supporting, potentially, so Gilliam County supporting our programs. So conversations had led us to believe that this might be something that you might be agreeable to, because we would very much love to serve students from your county coming over and living perhaps in the housing. A lot of them, we talk to students sometimes and they don't want to undergo a 90-minute commute sometimes. So we think that the housing might help them also, the students who potentially are living far away and can't come on a regular basis. So specifically, the request is for instruction-related costs, not construction. So in instruction of instructors, the materials, equipment, things that they would need to actually teach these trades. So the long-term vision is to have cohorts of high school students engaging in these programs so that by the time they graduate from high school, they have a credential and can go immediately into the workforce. And these, as I mentioned, are all very high needs areas. And Dan might want to have some data to share with you, but we do have that data related to the openings. We had conversations with Boeing, who projected out 20 years openings in nationally for aviation technician, which will be another program we're starting, which was originally going to be in the building, but it's too big. We can't we can't fit the plane in there. It takes up the whole space. So we're doing that in a hangar off-site. So there's a lot going on, and it's very important to us. I remember when I first got here, Dan took me out. We went out to Condon, and I remember my first question to him was, after I said, I think my phone is broken because I have no signal, was, hey, who serves the students out here? And he said, we do what we can to serve the students out here. So I think that this will help us serve more students out there with more high wage potential jobs that they can come into right after graduating from high school. So Dan, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but we're here to talk to you this morning about the request, which is just over $125,000 and is detailed in the letter that Dan, who is our Director of Community Outreach and Capital Projects, put together based on conversations with our instructors and deans.
Dr. Cronin, thank you very much. Judge, you look like you were going to ask a question.
I was going to ask, I know that you guys were making the pitch to Sherman County as well. Has that already taken place, and have they given you any indication of what they're considering or whether they're considering?
That's exactly where I was going. So we did send a letter simultaneously to both counties, and spoken with Judge Tobolsky. He is taking it under consideration, and that's where we stand with Sherman County now. I think we wanted to have this meeting behind us to see what level of interest might be coming out of Gilliam County. The other point with Judge Tobolsky, we mentioned this in the letter, and I would definitely reinforce it here. He is very much interested in having a site tour of the building. And as we are relaxing COVID restrictions, that becomes easier and easier. We still have social distancing. You still need to wear a mask. But that is something that we would like to see really sooner rather than later, so that you can see firsthand what we are doing out there. Both buildings, but definitely get inside the Skills Center and walk through it and see what type of spaces we're talking about. The images that Dr. Cronin shared give you a pretty good idea from that preliminary architectural perspective, but it's only when you actually get in there and look and see it that high bay training space. When we talk about high bay training space where you can build tiny homes and you can expand our welding program dramatically, that really gives you a sense of what we're going to be able to do there on the campus. But yeah, the request, it's a total of what did we have in the letter? 125,000, and that would be a split between the two counties. So the proposal is roughly $62,736 per county. And again, it is under advisement in Sherman County. I've circled back to see whether there are any follow-up questions that we need to address there. But I think really that next step with Sherman County is going to be the site tour, and we would like to make that same offer with you.
Okay. Commissioners, questions?
Do you have any current numbers of Gilliam County residents who are students at this time or in the last year?
Doctor, do you have any data available on that one? I've got some older numbers, not recent ones.
Those are the numbers I have too, the ones when we were originally talking about tuition vouchers way back. Those are, yeah. I don't have recent numbers, no.
I'd like to get you the most recent numbers. What I have is from the, well, I believe it was over the summer, so I'd like to get you current numbers on that one.
And how do you reach out to the high schools and even the businesses? Like Waste Management has a container repair facility that reques, Pat knows a lot about that.
Welding certificate.
Yeah, so the welding would be something that would be very interesting, for them to help.
Absolutely. Actually, Nate Stice and I actually toured Waste Management. Oh, it's been about a year ago to talk about welding, even things like diesel mechanics. I think there's some interest there. And right now the focus was more on welding. That's something that we see throughout the Columbia Gorge. And so there's constant demand on that. The numbers we have on construction trades, we just received a report from East Cascades workforce last week. And Dr. Cronin, you're on that. I think you're the vice chair of that board now.
I am, yes.
Somewhere around 700 positions open in construction technology in our area, with about a $20 per hour average wage. So that's a pretty good career.
Yeah, and as far as outreach to the high schools, every term we work with them to see what we can offer as it relates to dual credit, what they can take while they're in high school and in college at the same time. And a lot of that has been focused on academics, but we're moving more towards CTE. Let's focus on those students who maybe, won't go off and get a 4-year degree, students who need a trade to study. So we're working more on partnering with the high schools to get them started early so that by the time they graduate, they're on their way, if not almost completed with that credential.
Another thing in terms of high school outreach, we are a recipient, it's been about a year and a half ago now, of a USDA Rural Development Distance Learning Grant. And all of the high schools in Gilliam County are a part of that. The original idea was to set up Zoom rooms, but with COVID, that kind of changed the dynamics. And so we're modifying the scope of work on that. But the premise of that, expanding what we're doing on the college campus through distance learning and having that more immediate presence in the high schools in Condon, Arlington, and also going down into Wheeler County on that, and even by state. We were one of only 2 community colleges in the United States that actually crossed the state line receiving one of those grants. That was one of the things that John Huffman was really proud about before he departed as state director.
Additional questions, commissioners? Or thoughts on the proposal?
It'd be a good idea to reach out as commissioners or as a court to the schools and have a conversation with how they think this would fit them and what their moving their students forward. Get a little input.
Okay. One thing I wanted to throw out that intrigued me a little bit on your construction technologies. I mean, we have, as all of the counties in our region do, a significant housing shortage. And so I guess what I'm wanting to explore perhaps is, would there be room if the county decides to move forward and fund this, rather than think about covering tuition or some other thing, could there possibly be a conversation that maybe one of your classes builds a home in Gilliam County or builds a couple of homes in Gilliam County as part of their coursework even? Is that something that potentially we could, I mean, that's kind of where my mind is going, is that, I mean, if this could result, if your construction technologies program could result in us having some homes in Gilliam County as a result of it, to me, that's money well spent from the county's perspective. I don't know how the commissioners feel about that, but that was just an initial idea that I thought, looking at this, that might be worth exploring.
So my initial idea related to this was the tiny home thing that Dan mentioned. Maybe as a project, as a class project during the course of their program, as they learn plumbing and electrical, they put together a tiny home. So, I don't see why it couldn't expand to be a larger home. That's not necessarily a tiny home, but also we have the housing shortage on our mind, and we're trying to do what we can to help to alleviate that problem.
So to build upon that one, and yes, precisely, Dr. Cronin, and perhaps the latest development on this one, and I'm hoping I don't lose video. I'm going to drop my screen because I'm getting an unstable signal here. I may have frozen already. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
We were approached by Mid-Columbia Community Action Council on that same point just a couple of weeks ago. They are interested in expanding, having some hands-on learning in construction and expanding housing capacity, and also Mid-Columbia Housing Authority. And that would be in partnership with what we're doing on the Dallas campus. Could students go off campus and help build homes? So this would be an extension of that into Gilliam County. And of course, in Sherman County, that's the same issue there. Students need hands-on learning opportunities. We can provide a lot of that in the skill center, but to scale that up to a full-size residence, a 2-story residence or something, that we can't quite fit that through the garage doors of the skill center. So let's look on location, a stick built on location. I think that would be a really good learning opportunity.
Well, commissioners, what do you think about that idea? Is that something that we would want to maybe talk about further and pursue? I don't know, the city both has expressed various interests, and we have Pioneer Community Development. I wonder if maybe we could look at having a separate meeting where we put all those partners together with you all at the college and see if maybe there's something we could work out. Like I said, I mean, I'm kind of showing my cards, but if we could get housing as a result of the county's investment, I think that would be money well spent.
I personally think that's an outstanding idea. I mean, I understand the obstacle with new students and their skill levels and how much they can participate in building a house. So it's an idea that can require a lot of thought on how you ever get to actually building a house because of the details and that. But it's a really good idea.
Yeah, even the tiny home concept of, we have a lot of young people that work at Waste Management and even single people working at the wind turbine farms that's a need. I know there's a couple of smaller apartment type sized homes on my street that there are always someone in them. I mean,
full.
they don't go empty.
They don't go empty.
So if a tiny home is even, would be advantageous.
And that might be something that just from a, more of a rental type housing perspective or whatever, if we had a lot and we could start this through a tiny home deal and get 4 or 5 of them set up on a lot, really advantageous for, we had 80 people coming out of the county. What if a couple of them guys wanted to, not drive every day?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's well worth the time to look into it.
So how about this as a next step? Would it make sense to convene a meeting where we ask maybe the city's Pioneer Community Development, which for folks who may not be aware, they're the ones that we have invested a considerable amount of money that they're holding to help support housing development. So they would potentially be a partner along with the county and the community college to maybe talk about if we could structure something where the county contributes to the skill center. In exchange, the students help build, a house here in the county, and perhaps have that be an ongoing discussion, or an ongoing project. Is that something you guys would be open to, having that discussion? And I see Catherine's on here as well. Catherine, is that something that the city of Condon might be interested in being part of as well?
So I'm sorry, I missed part of your conversation because I had someone come in, but tiny homes. So stop me if I'm off track here, but tiny homes aren't necessarily allowed in Condon now, especially if they come in on wheels. But we had an interesting discussion at the Planning Commission meeting 2 weeks ago to possibly amend our code, our building code here in town, to allow like a tiny home or a mother-in-law suite or a bunkhouse as a rental, because right now you can't have 2 residences on a property in Condon. But we're thinking of ways to be able to allow people to rent a house. I'm guessing, and Kirk is actually, Fatlin, who's our planner, is going to get us some more information so we can have a more robust discussion about it. But the problem is we won't be discussing it in March because we have a really long agenda about planning issues going on. But that is something we're talking about. And are you saying that the skill center, they're building tiny houses?
That's the plan, that the construction technology cohort, each class, if you will build in pieces because they'll be learning plumbing, electrical in different courses. So as part of their coursework, that's their final project, is what
that would be great to have some sort of partnership, because right now, if it comes in on wheels and it always stays on wheels, so it's mobile, that's kind of a non-starter. But if it comes in, they put it on a pad and it's not moving, I think that is something we can sure move towards if we change our code.
Well, and Judge Farrar also mentioned the possibility of maybe building something on site that's not necessarily a tiny home. So that's certainly a partnership potential that we could look at.
That'd be great. Hey, do they want to build a pump house? We can get them in on that, but it needs to be built like in the next couple months.
of Arlington might have those same zoning issues as far as
They do.
tiny homes go, but I think it's something we need to pursue. I mean, it's the future, and we need to reach out. And what about including some of our local contractors in that meeting as well to see if they're on board with?
Yeah, we can do that. So does that sound agreeable that maybe the next step is to do a meeting to see if we can come to an agreement on that? I don't know, commissioners, how are you feeling? I feel if we could reach an agreement on getting a house or houses built in Gilliam County, I would definitely be willing to look at funding this.
I would too.
Yeah, the housing's our biggest issue.
Yeah, and that might take,
on the top.
combining the contractors with the school, so you got somebody overseeing a project here that, put something together between the two. But yeah, I mean,
Where's the
obviously
conversation?
that's a huge issue for us, so.
Like to bring our instructor, Len Wood, as a longtime contractor in the area, into the conversation, and it really ties in with the request that we received from Mid-Columbia Community Action Council to see if we could assist in what they hope to do, and then really Mid-Columbia Housing Authority could have a role here. Pioneer, the group there, I met their director out there. It's been a couple of years back. I'm a little bit familiar with the work that they're doing. So this is really a strategic partnership that I think goes beyond the immediate request that we have, which is to defray the cost of equipment, startup costs, things like that. But this is really a good strategic discussion, and I think we're excited by that prospect.
Yes.
Great. So I think for next steps then, what we'll do is I'll see if our staff can help get all of these parties around a table, and we can then, make sure PCDC's here, any folks that you guys want to invite, our cities, obviously we want them at the table, and then any contractors along with the county court, to have a discussion to see if we can come to some kind of an agreement or arrangement. And then I think if we can try to move that ahead so that we then have some sense as we go into budget season, if this is something we can come to an arrangement on, we can make sure that we get that budgeted for. Is there a time frame in terms of when you're looking to have these commitments secured?
I think this is different because originally, as Dan said, we were talking about defraying startup costs. So I think if we're looking for a long-term partnership, then there's no real time frame, certainly. But we want to probably get a cohort right when they begin, so that when they start from their first, they can start putting it together. But yeah, so whatever works. I think that the next meeting will probably tell us what that time frame might look like.
Okay.
We'd need to look into permitting, construction materials, everything else that would go into the actual project of building a single family residence or whatever it might be there. We do have SDS has offered to contribute materials, but that's a donation on their part for work taking place in the skill center itself. This is fascinating. It's going to take some work, but this is, yes, let's take a really good look at that. I would like to bring Sherman County up to speed on this one too, when I visit with the judge, and make him aware of this interest, because knowing their interest in affordable housing as well, that could be part of the meeting perhaps.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Catherine, did you have something more to add?
Just one more thing is, if you are deciding on something fairly soon, we're actually meeting tonight, the city council, but we do have a housing committee. If you guys have a ballpark of what you're thinking of meeting before our next meeting in April, I can pass that word on. I'll at least alert them to the fact that maybe we're going to have a group housing discussion, but let me know any details so I can give them to that tonight so they can be ready to have a meeting later in the month possibly.
Okay. Yeah, we can maybe start that process this afternoon and see if we can come up with some dates.
If it would be appropriate, I'd be happy to listen in on that. That's the city council meeting?
Yes.
Yes, I can send you a link, Dan.
Catherine, if you don't mind, I'd like to at least listen in on that.
Okay, that'd be great. It's
you.
probably, we actually have we're talking about an RFP we received too, to develop a 1 block area. So maybe we might put it in there instead of wait till the end of staff report. So you're not on for an hour and a half. So I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any additional questions or comments?
I don't have any.
Good.
Okay, so we'll get staff working on getting all the parties around the table and reconvene. I'm excited about this.
Thank you so much for your
Very
time.
cool.
Yes,
Thank
we're
you.
excited too. Thank you so much.
Sure.
We appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
You
We'll be in
too.
touch. Bye.
Can we
So
take a
let's
quick
move
break?
on. Yeah, that's fine by me. It's 11:30, so we want to say 10 minutes and come back at 11:40.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We're a little early, but let's go ahead and reconvene, and we'll go into 6.2, which is Business Oregon Small Business Relief Fund Disbursement Update, with GEODC Executive Director Susan Christensen. Susan, take it away.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you, Judge and Commissioners, for having me on your agenda. It's always very interesting to sit in on the Commissioner meetings around, I cover 7 counties, so it's always interesting to sit in and hear about what's going on locally. Housing is, I can tell you from all the other counties, are an issue, and everybody's trying to tackle it in a little different way. So your last conversation sounds very interesting, and there's lots of good models out there for housing, where the homeowner doesn't own the land, but they own the house. Anyhow, that I go off on a tangent on that, but so I'm here to present the Business Oregon received money from the federal government as when the pandemic started, and the money was intended to help small businesses. It was never intended to be a full assistance. It was really more of just a Band-Aid. And when we all thought that we were going to be out of the pandemic in a couple of months, which clearly that didn't happen. So GEODC was basically the intermediary of giving out the grant funds on behalf of Business Oregon. And we had received 2 rounds of funds. It just turned out they called the rounds round 1 through 4, and it was at the time, if you recall, which it's hard to believe it's a year ago, everybody was just scrambling, trying to figure out how we're going to do this, and not just we, but the state and at the national level. I mean, everybody was working fast and furious, and so yeah, the nomenclature for the Business Oregon grants became numbered, and so we received round 2 and round 4. In round 2, Gilliam County, the city of Condon, there were 3 businesses that were awarded grant funds with a total amount of $10,000. And then the second round, there was 1 grant awarded, and that was for $10,000. And all the other counties were a little different, but I just wanted to report that we were able to facilitate getting some money into your community. And people have been asking if there's any other grant money coming down the pike, and I haven't heard of anything at this point. The administration's still new, so who knows? There may be something else coming down the pike. The other, I believe, was put into your agenda packet is a flyer on a loan program that we have. And this is CARES related money. A lot of people aren't ready for loans yet, small businesses, but it is out here. We have $1 million to be loaned out within 2 years, which now it's just a little over a year. People around the country are in the same spot that the GEODC district is in, and that is small businesses aren't quite ready to take on loans. They're not ready to take on debt. So the federal government may extend our timeline for loaning this money out. The terms are more favorable than our normal loan program. And Christina Smith, our loan officer, her name and phone number is at the bottom of the flyer. So if you have any questions, please give her a call. And maybe this can assist with a small business in Gilliam County.
Great. Questions for Susan on the grants or the loans?
I was curious why Arlington wasn't included in there under Gilliam County, or why, what happened, what was going on there?
You know, we get the word out as much as we can, and we can't force people. Kaylin was very instrumental in getting the word out within the county. I know she works for, she's in Condon, but I know that she worked hard at getting the word out. And there's no rhyme or reason.
Have to apply.
I don't think I've heard anything about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have to know about it before you can apply for it, right?
Missed it somewhere.
Susan, what kinds of things did folks, for the grants, what did they use? Is that just to keep the doors open, or did they have to use the money on specific things like payroll or other things?
Yeah, it was a variety. The types of businesses ranged from bookkeeping to bouncy houses to restaurants, hairdressers, and then lots of other different types of businesses in between. So it was grant money, so they could use it really for anything that they wanted. So for some people, anecdotally, it paid for their rent for a couple of months, utilities. Other folks, it was to be able to continue to pay staff. And the first round of money was a little more restrictive, which if anyone had received a PPP loan, then they would not qualify. Round 4 was less, that restriction was lifted, so we were able to disperse a little bit more money. So yeah, I sent information out to all the chambers, and Arlington is on there. So, I'm sure I had somebody within Arlington on the list. So I can't say for sure why there wasn't anybody from Arlington. I did want to comment back to another topic that you talked about the chamber taking on a loan program on behalf of the county. We do have loan programs and samples, and we'd be more than happy to assist with Kaylin and maybe, getting some help her get set up to take on that responsibilities. So that's
great.
That offer is there.
Thank you for that. Questions for Susan?
You said there was 4 phases to that? Is that what I just heard?
The money came out in 4 different rounds, and the last round, well, yeah, 5 actually. The majority of the money was dispersed through districts like ours. There are 11 districts within the state of Oregon, and then some of the other entities that dispersed the money were, drawing a blank on the name, credit unions. So, and each round, the rules around the money, the criteria was a little bit different. So by the time we got to round 4, it was less restrictive, and round 5, that money was managed directly by Business Oregon.
Well, I'm just curious because, and I don't think this is a conflict, but I'm a business owner in Arlington, and I did receive some on round 4, but it apparently didn't come through here, so I just wondered how that had worked.
Do you know who you got it from?
Well, it's Business Oregon. It was in the round 4. It was in November, I believe. It was the grant program was open for 24 hours, and you applied real quick, and then you waited 2 or 3 weeks to see if anything happened.
That was round 5. Yeah.
Maybe that was 5. Okay, and it's not on here, and I was just kind of curious how.
Yeah.
I mean,
This is just the money that our nonprofit managed. It's not all of Business Oregon, just the money that we managed.
Okay.
Additional questions? All right. Thanks so much for joining us, Susan. Really appreciate it, and glad that we got some of that money out to the county. I know everything was, any little bit helps, I think.
Yes,
for our businesses.
that was what I heard from folks. And thank you again for having me. Let me know if I can be of any assistance with that loan program.
Will do. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, let's move on to 6.3, which is discuss library internet service. And I see Kelly is up. So Kelly, what's going on?
All right. So about a week or so ago, Catherine Greiner with the city of Condon came and talked to me about the city is installing WindWave internet service to City Hall and the Memorial Hall. And Catherine offered to go ahead and extend that installation into the Gilliam County Public Library. And the city would pick up the cost of that installation. And the city has also offered to cover the cost of the monthly service. And WindWave is what we've used here at the county. We've been very happy with the service. Speeds are fabulous, beyond belief, honestly. So I don't think we need a motion or anything. There's no cost to the county. I guess I'm just kind of here looking for a blessing. And to see if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts.
Any questions, commissioners, or Catherine, anything you want to add?
Nope.
I think we'd be silly not to take advantage of that.
I would say good job, Catherine.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine, and the city of Condon.
We're actually getting, due to some franchise fees, negotiation or bartering, we actually get the circuit for free. And so we are sharing our freeness with the library next door.
Good deal.
That is wonderful.
Go for it.
I say go forward.
Perfect. That's all I had. Just wanted to keep you guys up to date on what we're doing.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move into 6.4, which is 2021-2022 North Central Public Health District budget request. And we have the interim director, Shelley Campbell, with us. Hey, Shelley.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Morning.
Pretty good.
Thank you for having us here with you today. Yes, I'm Shelley Campbell. I'm the interim director here at North Central Public Health, and we are currently working on our budgets for the upcoming year. And one of the things we've been working on over the past year is a salary survey to see where public health staff falls within a current market range. This actually was done 4 years ago, and we're just revisiting it at the request of the Board of Health. And so we have just a draft today of the body of work that has been prepared that we really wanted to share with you. and then move forward with that as we take it to the Board of Health with some changes that have already been presented. But what I'm just here to this morning is to introduce Linda Weber, who is with One Tree Hill. She is a consultant for us, and she has done the work on it, and she'll be presenting the draft to you today, and then we can take questions. So I will welcome Linda, and I'll turn it over to her.
Thank you. If I could share my screen, that would be great. So I'm going to try and do that. Didn't work very well last time I tried, but we will try and do it again. Federal government agencies. So to provide a consistent place, because each year, if you're looking at it every year, you want it to be consistent. So that's why we used that particular one. I was asked, does it include Portland? Yes, it does. And some of the positions, a lot of the positions could be pulling from that arena, and that's why you would include it. This is a lot of numbers, but this is the results of pulling all this information together. Part of the things that we did was we had to make sure that we were looking at apples to apples for the positions. So when you look at a nutritional program technician for the health district, we wanted to make sure that when we're looking at the other counties or any of the other places that we were looking at the same position, like the same duties. We didn't want to be using positions that were maybe a little different but had the same name. So we made sure to look at the markers within the job descriptions and make sure that those were consistent, and then move forward from there. So these are all the positions that we looked at and where we ended up. So on this side of the page, this side of the page, the current pay range, this is what they're paying right now. They're ranged right there, and they have a midpoint. This is the proposed new market range, and then this is the difference right here. And you'll notice that when you're looking at the minimum, it's not too far off, but as you get further on, the maximums have increased over the years, and they have not kept up with that. So this is the actual raw data based on like handling every position the same. I did have some recommendations on several pieces in here, which I'll talk about shortly. Anybody have any questions on this page? I know it's a lot of information, or I can continue on if not. Okay, I'll just keep going then. So this page is the same as what we looked at that they're using right now, except we expanded it out to 7 steps. What we're trying to do is to keep the increases fairly close to what they are now. It just would be in more steps, because part of the challenge is how do we go from A to Z? How do we get from where they are today and moving forward to bringing them up to market rate? And so we were trying not to upset, I guess is the way I would put it. I think that when you start changing people's pay, that's a pretty sensitive situation, and the last thing we want to do is lose all the staff. So looking at what number of steps would it take to continue an increase similar to what they've been accustomed to, but maybe stretch it out over a longer period of time. So that's why we came up with 7 steps, and it could be 8, it could be 10. It's whatever percentage, whatever number of steps we decide is the best for the health district and their budget. One of the things that I did recommend in here, you'll notice that the public health officer, the director, and I believe what was the other, was one other one. I'll go back, sorry, back one page. Oops. So on this page, sorry, I missed it. Speaking of this, you'll notice down at the, that the director the public health officer, and I believe it was the nurse practitioner, physician assistant. Those three positions are static pays. They get no increases, no step increases. And I didn't understand why, and it's kind of something that carried over from when it was with Wasco County. So I went out and looked at several other counties, not just the ones that we looked at, and they all have ranges for those positions, but I looked at some others. The only times I saw static pay rates were when they were under contract. Other than that, I couldn't see anything like that. So that was something I recommended, was that they go from a static pay to a salary range, particularly in the case of the director. We're going to be recruiting for that position at some point in the future, and having a static pay range may be a deterrent to people that are applying for that position. So I strongly recommended that this need to be looked at. If you look at the public health officer on here, the market average range is huge. And part of the reason for that is that there are a lot of people in those roles that do a lot of different things. And I didn't want to take the data out without presenting it, but I highly recommend that pay range be reduced. The high end is way too high. It needs to be reduced. And so we'll be making a recommendation to the district on what that should look like moving forward. But in this initial presentation, with as much data as we're showing, we just wanted to make sure that they were seeing the raw data, and then we could discuss what changes needed to occur. Another thought I had on it was that we could add some additional classifications to narrow some of the ranges down, maybe to have less positions in there, so that we're trying to cover so many positions. That would be another way of making it a little bit more palatable. And again, that was the ranges, and you have that. So how do we get there? That was the next question. I recommend that we bring any employees that are below the minimum, which I think is maybe two positions that are below, up to market as soon as this gets approved, mainly because those are the only ones that are out of range. So that would be what would happen right away. And then in July, when they have their standard pay increase, where they do their step movements, we would, and of course, implementing the ranges for the static pay positions, add additional classifications, and then at the next increase, move the employees into those new ranges. So, for example, if they may be in step 5 right now, they may end up still in step 5, or maybe in step 6, but they may have another level that they can go to. But it wouldn't be going from, if they're in step 5 today, they wouldn't be jumping up to step 7. There's just no way that the budget would be able to support that. So. And then continue paying in steps. And my recommendation was the 7 steps. Again, we are looking at what that would look like, which steps make sense. And then once this is all approved, I would recommend that they stop the longevity incentive. I don't think that would be as necessary, because I think people are being paid within the range, and that wouldn't be necessary to have that longevity incentive in there as well. They do have a CPI and an annual adjustment that they do, and from what I understand, it's based on whether there's money available in the budget. And the purpose of that, and I recommend that continue, is to keep the ranges moving forward and keeping up with the market. So that would be something that they should be doing. Obviously, it didn't keep it up before. Therefore, we still have to do a review every 3 to 5 years to make sure that they are still within market and it's keeping up. The challenge with the CPI adjustment is it's based on budget. So if there's no money in the budget, they don't get that. So anybody that's over a 5-year longevity within the district, they would get nothing that year. So we need to take a look at how that's being handled as well. And again, I think it's important to talk about why they need to do this. It was brought to the table in 2017 and it was not approved because they really didn't have a path of how to get there. So it was tabled, and it definitely has, it's feeling like it really needs to be readdressed at this point. So, 4 years later, we're addressing it. The importance of fair compensation. As I mentioned, we're going to be doing some hiring, specifically of the director. We need to attract the right candidates. And in order to do that, we have to have this approved to have the right pay range. Encourages longevity and reduces staff turnover. Not that they have a high turnover right now, but I highly believe, this is my personal opinion, that a lot of the employees are waiting for this situation to be finished and be back on the table again, and they're watching. And I don't know what that's going to look like if they don't feel like they're being treated fairly. That could affect things. But in any company, a fair compensation package brings people in, it keeps people there, it keeps people happy, it creates a positive attitude within the employees. It's definitely something that should be thought about. Hiring and training new staff is a very expensive proposition. Whether you're paying for a recruiter or not, it still costs a lot of money to go through that process and train them, and you're saving money by doing that. So the more, in any business, the more you can keep your employees happy, keep them working, and keep them well trained, that's an important piece. And we talked about that piece. And then, of course, the stress on everybody that's left if there's vacant positions. Everybody's covering for everybody else. I think they're already short-staffed right now with the COVID situation. They've been fortunate to be able to bring some people in, but that's going to go away, and they'll be hiring again. It's just really challenging. And there are some other significant positions that will be vacated this year as well that are going to need to be filled. And I think that it's very important to have this figured out before that comes about. So that's the short version. Is there any questions that Shelley or I could answer for anybody?
Questions, commissioners?
It's my second time watching this, so I'm good.
I don't have any questions at this time.
So what has been the discussion so far at the board level? I mean, is the thought that you're going to each of the counties to take the county's temperature, and then the board will make a decision based on what you hear back, or sort of what's the process?
Good question. So we worked on this and presented it at our last month's Board of Health meeting, district meeting. And at that point, it was a draft, and we asked all the different county commissioners if they would like us to present it to their counties, because we know everyone's going into budget season, and we wanted everyone to be aware that this was being reviewed. So at this point, this is why we're here today. We're just presenting it to you, the data, what it looks like, and that now what we wanted is some feedback. We did present it to administration staff and Wasco County, and they gave us some really great feedback, because we really want to align ourselves with how the counties are working too, so that we're kind of all in the same pile of we're comparing apples to apples when we're comparing things. So we wanted to get your feedback if there was something that stuck out to you that seemed appropriate or questionable. And then we're taking that feedback back and updating the drafts. What we'll do then is we will present at our next Board of Health meeting, and we will provide some funding numbers that go along with that. So when the county commissioners go back to each of their appropriate county, they can then make a suggestion or recommendation on what we're asking and how that fits into your budget process.
Okay. Yeah, I had some questions about, are you finding, I mean, typically when you start adjusting a salary schedule, you're trying to tackle a problem that you're seeing with staff. So are you finding, I mean, is it a retention issue? Is it a recruitment issue? Is it morale? I mean, not being on the board is sort of what's driving sort of the way?
Well, I think it's a little of all of those. Again, as Linda had mentioned, this was brought to the Board of Health 4 years ago. And at that point, there was significant data that showed that on a whole, the public health district employees were not at the same market level as comparable districts or comparable public health offices. So we identified that there was some inequities there when it came to pay. So we wanted to talk to the counties to find out, okay, how do we begin to move forward to get our staff, public health staff, to the same level, or at least moving in that direction. And unfortunately, that went, that was pulled off the table and has not been addressed since then. And when we asked to bring it up again, we were asked to update it and bring more data and some more comparables of like districts or like health departments. And so that's what we've done. So we just know that our staff, we have had more turnover as the years have gone by. We are having significant longevity employees that are either moving on to other positions or retiring. So there is overturn. Our staff ask frequently about the salary survey, or do we get a cost of living raise this year? So it has impacted the morale. And of course, this year, I don't know if it's good, bad, or indifferent to focus on this during a pandemic, but there's certainly public health has been impacted this year with the staff working to the level they've been working, and there's some funding that's come into public health that we can help move this forward. And so this, as challenging it is to do it in a year of a pandemic, it really is important to do it this year or to look at it.
Okay. Commissioners, questions? Any other questions?
Shelley, I was under the impression in the last health district board meeting that they go ahead and try to figure out what to do with the director's position before this whole salary mess is addressed. That's still the plan, isn't it? I mean, can't hardly move forward with the director's position without doing something with that one salary.
Well, actually, Linda is the one doing a lot of the recruitment on that. So, and she can speak to this as well, but we do need to move forward with the recruitment of a director regardless. And again, that they're kind of going together simultaneously to make sure we get that position filled because we have been, I've been interim, but that means I'm also working as a clinical program supervisor. And so we are lacking one leadership position at this time. Linda, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I am in conversation with Kathy Schwartz right now about a presentation and a conversation at the next board meeting regarding recruiting, about what that would look like, what the process would look like. And but from an HR standpoint, if you don't have the right pay, you're not going to get the quality candidates. So I think you have to take that into consideration. And the challenge with increasing one pay, and it happens to be that particular position, the optics for the other employees is like, oh, well, they're gonna give that person more money and they're coming in new, but what about us that have been here working all this time through the pandemic? So my recommendation to the board is that they get this sorted out if they can as soon as possible, just to to at least figure out what they want to do, something to do for this year at least. But I think the challenge with only doing 1 year, there's no commitment in the future, and you don't want to start something and not continue it. So I think there needs to be some good thought put into this as to what this should look like, and so that it can be carried forward over the years and be fair and reasonable, but something that the budget can manage. So it's kind of challenging.
Do you have a sense, based on those numbers, of like what that does to the district's budget, and then what that looks like for the county's contributions, just so we kind of have a sense of how much more we're looking at? If say we just adopted Linda's recommendation without making any changes.
We will present those at the Board of Health meeting. We can't really present those right now. We're still working on it because we're still getting feedback, and we anticipate doing that at the Board of Health meeting. So I certainly encourage you guys to attend that if you're available, but certainly Commissioner Shannon will be there and can do that too. And this might give you guys a chance to have some conversation without, amongst yourselves, and then he can also bring any recommendations to us as well.
Any additional questions for Shelley or Linda?
I don't have any.
Nope.
Hey, this is Steve at the Times Journal. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Steve.
Hi. Well, good afternoon now. I was curious. I thought I heard Mrs. Weber say that the salary guidelines that they were looking at were based off of average salaries in Hood River County. Is that correct?
That was one of the counties. So all of the data, there's several things that we did. And because I was updating the existing survey, I wasn't creating a new one. I had to kind of take what they already had done. So they took information from Milliman, which is they gather salary information for government entities. They have a specific area for that. So we had that we had to update. And then we also had the counties. So Hood River County is one of them. We also had, let me think what they are. I know it was Polk County. Here it is. Klickitat County, Columbia County, Hood River County, and Polk County. So we took all of those things and then blended all those together to come up with a market range.
I mean, I'm curious, for the 3 counties that are being served by, NCPHD, is that a salary criteria that you looked at? Because obviously the cost of living and other factors involved in, Hood River County is much higher salary than obviously the 3 counties served by NCPHD.
When we looked at them, it actually wasn't significantly higher for some of the roles that we looked at. And that's why I was comfortable using it, because, when you're looking, when Hood River County is hiring specific positions, you're looking at the market of where you're pulling from. So a lot of these positions, you're not pulling from Hood River County, or you're not pulling from Gilliam County or Wasco County. In a lot of cases, you're pulling from outside of that area and you're attracting people in. I know that the NCPHD has actually hired people from other states before as well for some of these positions, because they're hiring the most qualified people that apply. And in order to pull from that, that is actually a market. And we're not using the like Florida as an example, but we wanted to use other local, and I'll call it local, actually Oregon states that were similarly sized, similarly budgeted, and not that they're exact, but as close as we could get. And something like Deschutes County, although it's rural, it has Bandon there, and there's a lot of people and a lot more in there. So that's why we pulled that out, if that is helpful.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Any additional questions for Shelley or Linda? If not, then it sounds like we're waiting maybe to hear those budget numbers. And I guess, Pat, we'll just count on you to bring back what you learned.
You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We
Thank
really
you for
appreciate
joining us.
taking our time today. Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, let's move into 6.5, which is consider approval of road equipment operator 1 and 2 position description. Lisa, do you want to take this one? Or Pat, one of you?
Commissioner?
Go ahead.
No, he's handing over. So I'll just lightly skim the item briefing. So in the item briefing, I noted that from the community and employee survey that we did as part of our strategic planning last year, it was noted from some of the responses that self-identified as the road department that there was a long-standing concern there around longevity and the expectations of the job and whether salary was commensurate, particularly with those two entities, how long someone had been here and how much knowledge they had gained. So the way that the salary structure is set, as you know, once you reach 10 years, you're tapped out. We have people in the road department that have been there far longer than that. And the expectation of the road department is such that the roadmaster's expectation is they learn all elements of the job. So that's every piece of equipment, every functionality, and be able to, for the most part, be self-driven and self-sufficient in doing that when they're getting to like 7, 8, 9 years of employment with us. And so what we end up with is people who have been here 15, 20 years that were tapped out on the salary structure for 5 or 10 years, yet the additional added value that they bring to the workforce is incredible. So I took some comparisons. It's funny we should follow the previous agenda item because it was very similar in that I looked across various counties. Only the counties that I used, we had some more local comparators. So we used Grant County, we used Morrow County, we used Sherman County, and I also used ODOT because they have a lot of equipment operator positions as well. And the data essentially came up and supported the fact that when we have people come into those positions, the starting salary is very competitive and we're doing a good job there. And over time, 6, 7, 8 years, we all kind of grow together across those salary structures. Once we start getting to 9, 10 and above years, the other counties and ODOT take off and we plateau. And so, you know, we have some concerns there that I'm looking to address here of ensuring that we're still competitive in the marketplace, that we can still retain good, qualified, and highly experienced and knowledgeable staff, and also employee morale, as we heard previously. That is a concern, and that was a resounding statement out of the employee surveys that the road department responded to. So the idea behind the position descriptions is to recognize that as our valued and tenured employees continue through their service, they're adding more. Their need for supervision is far less. They know the job inside out. They can hit the ground running and do a fabulous job. But it's also recognizing that they've got multiple years experience in that above and beyond some of their recently hired counterparts, and it continues to give them an opportunity to continue to grow in that position and for us to continue to recognize that with their compensation package down the road. So while this particular agenda item is not talking about compensation, it's setting the position description such that we can recognize our tenured employees and the additional value and skills and abilities that they bring to the table. One other item I would add is that the expectation is that they learn all elements of the job.
ODOT does not have that expectation. Our neighbouring counties may, but ODOT, you get hired to work the grader and you'll work the grader unless you apply for an alternative position. Questions?
And I think waste management's more like we are the multiple. They're experienced operators, operate multiple pieces of equipment.
Yeah. Right. Thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Shannon. That was another element I put into the comparisons, was to put in waste management, and it mirrored the same patterns we're seeing, that we plateau at about 8, 9, 10 years, and all other entities, including private entities like waste management, continue to provide a climbing structure.
I thought we should take a look at that just because they're local and we could lose operators to waste fairly easily.
Right. Oh, you don't have to sell me. I'm sold. It should have been done long time.
And that was
so I'm assuming too that we've run this by Dewey and he's okay with it.
Yeah, you like to see 3 positions, which we decided
3 levels.
3 levels. We decided 2 is enough at this time.
Yeah. And then Lisa, in terms of the difference between the 2 job descriptions, 1 and 2, I was trying to just kind of compare them. It's mostly just the longevity piece. Is that correct? Or can you kind of flag for me any other differences between number 1 and 2?
That is the longevity piece for the most part, and then the other piece is the supervisory piece. So somebody who's got 10 plus years of experience and is performing and meeting the expectations of the position can hit the ground running on most projects, bar the initial project briefing maybe, and the assignment of particular roles and timelines and responsibilities. But otherwise, you know, they are self-starter. And they can just hit the ground running. So less impact on the supervisor foreman needs of the rest of the team.
Got it. Any other questions or comments for Lisa?
I don't have any.
So again, just to reiterate process, what we would be looking for is a motion to approve the 2 new job descriptions, and then we actually look at compensation, and this year we'll look at it in context of the bargaining agreement, but normally we look at compensation as a separate decision when we take up the salary schedule a little closer to budget cycle.
Well, I move to approve the position descriptions for road equipment operator 1 and road equipment operator 2 as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the position descriptions for road equipment operator 1 and road equipment operator 2 as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. All right. We're moving right along. We are into staff reports. Lisa, do you want to cue them up? And I'm assuming we'll go in the same order on the agenda.
I certainly can. We're doing it slightly different in the sense that we can't have a panel up front because we can't fit so many people at 6 foot distance. So we're just going to cycle people physically through the courtroom presentation. So I'm going to need, if you just bear with me 1 second to to share my screen. And first up, we will be having Amy Nation, our juvenile director.
Hi, Amy. Hello.
Okay. So we have four reports for you today. We're starting a little back to front with juvenile services, and then we'll move into transportation. followed by safety committee from our safety officer, and then culminating with our buildings and maintenance coordinator. So with that, Amy, if you're ready, take it away.
I'm hoping you all had time to, or got the briefing I had submitted. I guess we'll start with, did you have any questions about that? A lot of it's kind of going to be in the PowerPoints as well, so.
Yeah, not right now.
Okay, perfect. So 2021 has been busy, not necessarily because of an explosion of cases. I'm actually very pleasantly surprised that COVID didn't explode my caseload. Our kids have done well. I mean, there's been a lot of, I think, concerns just across the board with, you know, mental well-being, and they were out of school for a long time last school year, but they didn't get into trouble. They didn't, dependency cases were not filed, so that didn't change at all. However, my caseload itself has just been pretty complex, a lot of pretty serious cases, and it's kept me busy trying to find resources, especially in our rural community, of where they can go, and then sometimes transportation is an issue, or we have working parents who can't always get them to services that are needed, and so getting creative and finding these types of services and partnering with outside agencies. For example, there's a treatment center in Bend that I'm going to be starting to work with, and they'll be doing things virtually with my youth who needs some services. Also, I've been able to, through my juvenile crime prevention grant, I have to delegate where those dollars go every 2 years, and so they were going to the schools, but the programs they were funding at the schools have been cut because of COVID. Well, not necessarily because of COVID, like Arlington's school counselor had left, and we haven't replaced that position, and so part of that funding went towards the school counselor, but we don't have a school counselor we're funding. So I was able to get creative and ask the woman at the state, could I take some of those dollars and buy a youth a laptop who needed to be able to virtually communicate with his counselor in Pendleton and couldn't get back and forth to Pendleton. And so trying to help our kids and families be able to have the technology that they need so that they can utilize resources that maybe we can't get locally. So I've been working on some of that. So just trying to get creative how some of these services are coming for some of these more complex cases.
Okay.
Girls Circle, I'm super excited. So I went to that training well before COVID, probably 2 years ago. Have really been wanting to get a program up and going in Gilliam County. COVID put a huge stop on that. But we're moving forward, we're doing well, and I'm gonna be starting this Thursday. I go and talk to the 7th and 8th grade class in Arlington. And then Mr. Hammond has allowed me to bring the Girls Circle curriculum into the Arlington school, and it will be beginning pending we have enough interest, which I'm really hoping all the girls want to jump on board with it. I'll be starting the end of March with the Girls Circle program in Arlington.
Cool.
And I have been on a I don't know if you call it a work group, but with it's called Triple P Parenting, and they're trying to bring the curriculum into, I believe it's Sherman, Wheeler, Gilliam. I think they do 5 counties, maybe Wasco and Umatilla. And so I've been on the work group for Gilliam County, trying to get people involved with this. And the exciting part is I'm going to be trained and not to take on, like I won't be giving big formal parenting classes to groups, but they have a smaller training, and you can use like tip sheets and things like that when you're already working with your families. So a lot of times already when I'm working with my families, parents will say, you know, my teenager never listens, or you know, respect is hard, or, and then there's going to be all sorts of tip sheets that you can give in like 10-minute sessions when I'm already doing the work that I'm doing with my families. So it gives me another tool in my toolbox to be able to go, oh, I've got a tip sheet you can use. I've got some suggestions. So it'll train me in how to use that and not necessarily add to my workday, but enhance the services that I'm already doing with families and be able to give them some more tips and hopefully some tricks and some help with that. So I'm really excited. I do that training next Monday, and then I'll be able to add that into the work I already do with families.
Questions for Amy?
Yeah, I was wondering when you look at this one table and it jumped drastically from 2018 to 2019 and cases opened and managed and then dropped way off in 2020. How do you explain that?
So it dropped in the amount of new cases, but I'm still managing a lot of those open cases from 2019. And to explain that, so each child is considered a case. They're given their own case number when you file a petition, but we can have a family with 4 and 5 children. So it's one family filed as a dependency case, but it's 5 cases or 4 cases or 3 cases, however many children are in the family. So we had a couple of families with many children. So you file 2 families that each have 4 children, you're seeing 8 cases.
Okay. So when you look at it by the family, it might be comparable, but by the cases.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So that's, and I know we had 2 or 3, I think I've read off the top, definitely 2, many children in the household. And so that would explain the jump on how many cases there were, is that, you know, it might have been comparative. I'd have to go back to, you know, like new cases opened in 2018 was 2 versus 10 in 2019. I'd have to go back and see how many cases, but it could have been, those were 2 separate families with 1 child each, or maybe 1 family with 2 children, versus I'm saying we opened 10 cases in 2019, but between 2 families, we had 7 children. So 7 of those numbers are 2 families. So that's why you're seeing the difference. And if you would like, we could always add another line too, instead of counting cases, or we can count cases, but we could also count families or
Households, I think would be.
Okay.
You know, be good information.
Okay. So I can add that line on the next one too, and then that way it'll give you a better picture. Yeah, like you said, how many households we're working with versus. It's just like I said, I just count it that way because
That's really the concern is, you know.
Right, how many families?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Well, and I would say as well on the delinquency side, what we often see is that our kids are making bad decisions in groups. And so sometimes we'll have.
Can't imagine that.
Don't know anything about that.
I was always out on my own.
Right, yeah, right.
Kind of well, I guess sometimes you can have, you know, siblings in a household with delinquency cases, but delinquency cases are usually more representative of that's how many children have new cases. I mean, each of them clearly committed a crime, whereas dependency, it is more household. It is more like, even though I'm counting it as 5 cases, it's 1 family. Right. So there is a difference there too. Any other questions?
Additional questions for Amy?
Sure.
I don't know where to look.
Look at the owl.
I got mine in.
Oh, she disappeared off the
Yeah,
screen.
I would just say, and we always say this when we've got our staff here, but Amy does a fantastic job of going out and trying to find new resources for our families. So, I mean, like this parenting curriculum she's doing, I mean, it's, as you all know, we've got limited resources here, and Amy does a really good job of finding every last one of them to try to keep our families and our kids on the right track. So good job, Amy.
Yeah.
Very good job.
I just want what's best for them. So thank you.
Thank you for caring.
Thanks, Amy.
Next up, Nala, Transportation Director.
Hey, Marla.
Hello. So I don't know how you want to start with this. Did you have any questions from the briefing?
I don't think I did at this point.
Okay, and I did put our unhappiness over the telephone system in there.
Well, we've
So I was
discussed
so
that.
glad Kelly was.
We've discussed that.
Okay. Okay, so ODOT is really cracking down on, they want to know staff time down to 15-minute. Everything, every project that we put in, every little grant, and I have like, they got 6 grants, 6 or 7. And so they want every project staff time broke out, which they never wanted that before. It used to just be you got paid for mobility management. I would pay my dispatcher out of that, regardless of what she did. That's no longer the case. And trying to track all that it's a nightmare.
Oh, it sounds like it.
So I'm looking for some new software to where, because Excel's okay, but it does crash. I mean, it's not the most dependable software or program that there is. So I've kind of called in, a couple calls in. One guy called me back and it was only $800 a month for 3 of us to use it. So I just said, thank you and have a great day.
Right.
And so I know there's got to be something out there. And if not, I'm just going to have Lisa write me one. So.
Oh.
Make yourself a note there. Yeah, but we'll get it figured out. It just it's really, it's hard. That's all I can say. And they're never satisfied, regardless if I follow what I think they want, and then I always get questions. They always want more. So
really,
I am having a meeting with Teresa from ODOT tomorrow to talk over some things because they weren't happy with my STIP application. So we're gonna go over that and get that all figured out. She said a lot of people had issues this time around because ODOT hasn't really gotten tight on everything with the audit as it came down. After they were audited, and then now they're on us, so their records are right. So I can't blame them, it's just frustrating.
Yeah.
I think I'm good. Okay, ODOT. ODOT wants to have, their goal is to have Oregon covered by public transit from the coast to Ontario, where anybody can access public transportation. We have a dead zone from the Dalles to Hermiston, which falls on us. Well, we're not really to the point where we can do, I mean, we have a designated route, so coming up, we've hired one driver. So that could actually be one day a week that they could catch it from the Dalles to Arlington. Then they have to stay there a day or two before they can move on. So it's not as seamless as they want, but it is a step towards that goal. And the next thing they want us to do is work together with the other programs. And the bad part about that is everybody wants us. Well, I've been asked several times, well, since you're going to OHSU anyway, could you just take somebody from Hood River? Okay, then what time is that person's appointment? How long is my volunteer and my person gonna have to sit there? And you never know, because you could go in for a simple blood test and it ends up being 6 hours. Mm-hmm. So I haven't played really well with everyone on that because it's just, we don't have the resources to do that. And I think our people, this program is for our people. So I just don't think it's something we can really do. I do support all of they're putting bus stops in the Dalles and in Hermiston. And I think that's a good thing to respect and use. I mean, if our designated route gets up and going and we use those same stops, I think that would be the right thing to do just because it teaches everybody about public transit. I don't want them to say, well, I saw a bus downtown and they were doing this. I see where their frustration would be. So if we could, we'll stop at, for instance, Safeway, Fred Meyer, Dollar Tree, Bi-Mart, something like that, because the stops are already there. And of course, if we'll still have the dialer right if they need they need to go up to the hospital or something, they'd still be able to get their medical transportation covered. I'm hoping the designated route takes provides people a way to get out of the house, maybe make their little runs instead of trying to do a month's worth of grocery shopping in one day, which takes 4 hours for them to do this, that they could go a few times, maybe have lunch, maybe buy smaller amounts of groceries and if they're, or you can go to a movie, have lunch out of town, something like that. So that's the plan. Or not the plan, I guess would be the goal. And then working with the Arlington Medical Center and ambulance. David and I got together after there was a call last month, and we've been working on a solution. He has a staff person that he's willing to put as a driver to bring the people back from the ER. Or in certain cases, there might be somebody that just needs to go that is doesn't really rise to the emergency level, but it's more than he can handle. And it would be a specialized thing, like somebody in a mobility device, somebody that they, that we're the only option. So it's worked out really well. Lisa's been working on the IGA. I think she's pretty much, it's in legal.
It's ready to go to legal.
It's ready to go to legal. And I've been working on a job description, and then with the last snowstorm that came up, that had me worried, because I don't think his staff person could shovel her way in for a mobility device. And so there's all these little problems that are arising that's kind of got me a little worried. So we're working on processes, but it's nice because he's actually going to pay the staff person and we're going to provide the vehicle. So it's a good mix of services. And I think it's a good pilot program, and I want to work with MCMC and Good Shepherd and try to set a cap on it as far as time. Say if that person can be released by 10 p.m. at night, we'll get them. Anything after 10 o'clock, it's on your plate to keep them, help them, or anything like that. Maybe it'll expedite their care a little bit. I know I've had pretty good luck with it, just calling on certain clients. Say, well, if you want them out of there, I need them done by 6:15. And I'd say 3 out of 4 times it happens. So that's all being in the works. And then I have to do the training for the driver through the Arlington Ambulance and Medical Center. I don't really know how he's doing it, if it's all Arlington Ambulance or if the health district pays for the whole, is the umbrella for both of them. I'm not really sure, because that's on his dime, not mine. But so I really don't know how to phrase it. And I'll do the trainings for the driver. We'll get her going. We actually have her first pickup on Saturday, scheduled already. And I think that's about it. The new plan for the vehicles, the Toyota Siennas came out with a auto access about 6 years ago, and we haven't been able to buy them with federal funds because they're not made in America, even though they are. So I had the STIF funding, that's what that grant's in for now. And it'll be the auto access where the back passenger seat comes out. It's all power. You can put them out of a walker or a wheelchair in it, strap them in, and then it lifts them into the car. So that would really help. We'd be covered for more ADA trips that way, other than just trying to do the big buses or the 2 vehicles. Because as our population ages, we're going to have it more.
Yeah.
So it's a great plan. I mean, it's a great vehicle. And I hope we get at least 2. I asked for 3 because I figured they might cut me 1, so. The road department did a great job. I don't know if you noticed around up here, they put the blockage all the way around, and they put rock in, so it's no longer eroding. And Dewey said he could do the parking lot, resurface it this spring. So that'll make it much nicer, because it kind of have a lot of divots and it's kind of torn up. And same time he's doing that, I'm hoping to get the concrete replaced, because it's been eaten up by the ice melt. And so that's the plan there. I'm thinking about putting somehow have it heated. Maybe it would reduce the ice buildup, but I don't know. We'll see what the contractors say, if it's a good idea. And we've got security cameras that we're going to put in all bus barns, because things tend to just walk out sometimes. So we're hoping that helps. And it might also help if somebody was to be injured, we'd have it on video. It came in handy a few years ago. And then we just have some maintenance to do, and I'm hoping to get that other building purchased maybe not the building, but at least some land to put, and we'll start that phase to have more storage for the vehicles down in Arlington, because we're maxed out down there. And, oh yeah, I need to ask about the gutters for the bus barn. Since it'll be under a certain amount, can it just be advertised?
Depends what a certain amount is.
Well, I think it's, isn't it 5 or 10,000, Liz?
Yeah, for construction, I think it's actually 5. If it's budgeted and it's less than 5, then it can be a direct procurement. If it's more than that, then you would need to get 3 bids.
Okay. Is that something that you feel or that I could do on my own, or would you rather have Jeff? Would it be better if I had Jeff do it? Because I know there's a couple construction companies in the area, and I thought I'd just ask them to begin with, but.
I mean, I think if you can get 3 contractors to look at it and give you bids, that's probably, I think that would probably be sufficient, unless the commissioners would rather have it be managed by Jeff, but I would think it would be pretty straightforward.
I would think just get 3 contractors.
Okay, I can do that, thank you. And we have a brand new 2020 Ford Transit. I picked it up on the big snowstorm. It's all-wheel drive. It did great with just the street tires on it all the way from Portland. So I was really satisfied with it. I'm glad we waited and got the all-wheel drive. And I think that's it, unless you have questions. And then Naya has a short presentation to add to.
If you have questions for Marla?
Nope.
I don't think so. You're very well
Marla, I
done.
had a quick one. I had a quick one for you. I know we were putting iPads in to try to do more electronic reporting. How is that going? Is that happening? Are your volunteers doing it? What's going on with those?
I think
I was going to talk about that.
yeah, that's a Naya project. So
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's transfer.
All right.
Come on up, Naya.
Okay, so to touch on the tablets, we have 3 tablets, 1 in each bus barn. And what I have is, right now I kind of wanted to make it simpler for our volunteer drivers to kind of transition into paperless. So right now I just have them doing the pre and post trip sheet inspection forms, which is really nice because it goes straight into the program that we use on Fleetio. So it goes straight to the computer and I can see it as soon as they press the button and submit it. So right now that's going good. I'm hoping eventually, I'm just not sure when, but to have all of the trip sheets also on like a running data to kind of cut time. So for instance, every month for every trip, we have a volunteer driver or who's ever driving, now we have a paid driver, fill out a trip sheet. And what I do is I go and take all the data, add it all up, and put it into like a monthly Excel sheet so we can kind of see how many trips we've taken, how many people we've taken, miles, hours, all of that. So if we had it all on a tablet to where the driver could just keep an ongoing log, that would cut a lot of time for me sitting behind the desk trying to add all this stuff up and answer phones all at the same time and drive. So yeah, so to answer your question, Liz, I think it's going good so far. There's a few bugs, but we're working on it. So just
great
on that.
How accurate a data are you going to get that way?
Great. So like right now, for instance, when the drivers write down on the paper, they're to write the miles that they left the bus barn, the miles as they got back, what time they left, the places they've stopped, if the person is in a wheelchair, a veteran. So it should be hopefully fairly well accurate, you know, if they're doing the trip.
And I could add that the pre and the post trip inspections are the worst, was one of our issues on the compliance. review that we had through ODOT, because they might fill out the front page, but they don't fill out the back or vice versa, so.
We're quite familiar with that problem.
I understand that very
Yes,
well.
we do. We, that's.
Or they just fill it out and they don't do the inspection.
Well, yeah, they just mark it off.
Yeah. We're both very familiar.
Okay.
We feel your pain.
As far as the bus barns go, we have ordered, or we have now, new cabinets for each bus barn, just to be more organized. I wanted it more of like an office space for our drivers to encourage better data, and a printer. So each bus barn will also have a printer, and I'm hoping that eventually I can send everything electronically to the tablet for them to then print everything off in the bus barn. So then it kind of cuts hours of also me having to go to each bus barn and lay out the trip sheets, and the drivers will be able to do it on their own. So that's in the near future. And I'm trying to think of what else. The security camera system, Marla brought that up, so we're hoping to get that stuff done too at the bus barns. And I think that's all I have for that. Do you guys have any questions?
Sounds like a big increase in your efficiency.
Yes.
So, yeah, sounds good.
I would like to extend an invite for commissioners to come maybe join me in the office one day and kind of see. I know it's a lot of information all at once, and a lot of times when Marla's talking, I'm still confused. So I think if we can all
really feel that pain,
understand the program better, such as the phone call, I think we'd be able to convey it a lot better to the community of kind of what we do and what we provide for service-wise. So please, I would really enjoy.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking for volunteers. So, but yeah, that's all I have. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you.
Any questions for Naya? Great job.
Very good.
I'm good.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So next up, we have the safety committee, and our safety officer, Teresa, is here today.
Good morning. Following along with everyone else, is there any questions on the item briefing?
Don't have any.
All right, Commissioner Shannon?
Nope.
Nope, all right. So this was the security barrier at the courthouse was on our last report. It's something that the sheriff and the sheriff's office and the sheriff, that's been on their to-do list for quite a while. Mm-hmm. And I visited with Jeff Schott the other day on projects that he has a big list for the courthouse. And this is still on it, but like the ADA bathrooms are taking a little precedent over this one. So we are still working on this, but it's a very, very slow process at this time until some of the other more important projects get taken care of. And we have made a little bit of progress on the Holland & Sons warehouse. He did have a company come out and do asbestos testing, and unfortunately there was asbestos in the siding. And so he's working on an RFP to have a company come out and follow all the steps to get that removed. And at the safety meeting that we have the third Thursday of every month that you're always welcome to come to, Dewey was there last week, and they are very much on board with helping with the demolition when it gets to that point, depending on their schedule. And then he also suggested that the metal roof try and be salvaged. And Chris Fitzsimmons is also on the safety committee, and she said that she was thinking there might be some buildings at the fairgrounds that they could reuse that. Mm-hmm. So we will be working on that when we get to that part of the process, but we're still a little ways out on that. And when the asbestos was here, just a little side note, they also tested areas in the courthouse for the ADA bathrooms and things, and unfortunately there was asbestos there as well. So we're trying to, plan everything at the same time if we can, because we live so far away with one contractor for the abatement process. And the fire speaker and repair, this is something that we brought to the court at the beginning of the year, And Fire Systems West is on board to come, I believe 17th and 18th maybe of March, to fix our speakers. That was the, not the speakers, the, well, it's more of the,
I think it is a component of
it is both, yeah. But then there were some other big impairments that they needed for the boiler and some other things that they needed to repair. So, so that's where we are on that. So that should be completed by spring. Any questions for the safety committee?
Well, I'm good.
I don't think so. You have good participation.
Yes. We do. People are really willing to serve on it. And part of the safety committee is also the wellness committee that we've had some, last year we had the wellness walk, and we're working on, that's gonna roll it out here in a couple of weeks, maybe a week, another wellness program that the safety committee has been working on. And yeah, it's been going good. And I just participated in some wellness seminars during the CIS conference. And so I have some other, got some other ideas and kind of worked with other cities and counties on things that they do for their wellness programs.
Do you have participation on the safety committee from the road department?
Yes, either Dewey or Larry.
Do you do inspections?
Yes. Daryl and I just completed inspections. Was that getting it? That was in January, I think.
January for the first one.
And we did all the buildings here, and then there's 3 buildings in Arlington that we do as well. Yep. We're trying to get them done every quarter. It was about every 6 months.
So do you have an inspection sheet that you?
Yes.
Can I get a copy of that?
Sure, it's on file down in my office. I can scan it and send it to you, the filled out ones, or do you want a blank one?
No, I just want a blank one.
Okay, sure.
See what's on it.
Yeah, you bet. I can send that to you.
I have a little background there too.
Okay.
Yes.
Any questions, additional questions for Teresa?
I don't have any.
All right, thank you.
For your work.
We move on to the final presenter, our Buildings and Maintenance Coordinator, Daryl.
Good morning or
Afternoon. Yeah, we moved into the afternoon.
Nap time.
So,
We start late.
yeah, does anyone have some questions about the agenda item briefing?
I don't think I did at this point.
An interesting year with COVID, of course. So moving on, the buildings and maintenance. So the 4 areas of the county basically that I'm responsible for. As we just mentioned, with the capital is being budgeted for remodeling the bathrooms and ADA. Also we're sure if you were aware they're going to relocate the security door from here past the break room also. But the big thing I need to talk to you about is a future consideration is the budgeting for the external windows all around the courthouse. It's really an inefficient system. You could feel breeze come through. It's cold. It leaks water, even though we've tried to caulk the heck out of it on the outside a few times. So it comes down on the windowsills inside. So a lot of people complain depending which way the wind blows. And it's going to be a major expense. So obviously, we're not going to do it this year, but the county court needs to really consider that after we do this other project to take care of that. I think this is the next big project. We did the roof last year, but this is probably the next big thing. I know they wanted the security bear, but that won't be anything compared to like the window expense. I have no idea how much you have to budget for that right now. Just want to make you aware.
Yeah.
Burns Park was a really pretty quiet season for us with the whole COVID issue. We did get some trees trimmed, and next year I'm going to try to get a lot more done. Budget for that here upcoming, and some more bark chips. There's a few spots, and some minor things, but other than that, with the park, that's about it.
Is the park open now?
It'll be open April 1st. You know what we plan for.
Yeah. You're gonna see travelers before that on spring break.
Oh. We used to open up for the tumbleweed tournament, try to get early if it's not too crazy of a snowstorm.
I expect with COVID and parents being locked down with their kids and doing hybrid and homeschooling, that they will go on the move in March.
Well, we got electricity for them, but, and sewer, right now the water's shut down. The weather's looking good. I was just looking at that to maybe think about getting it open, but that's kind of based on the local plumbers.
I think Oregon's spring break is the third week of March.
I don't have any idea. No idea.
We get quite a few reservations for like weddings and such, you know, like 4th of July on through September right now. So we weren't able to really have those last year. So hopefully everything kind of opens back up. And
Well, everybody's trying to figure out what to do during COVID, during 2020, they all bought camp trailers.
Right?
yeah.
Camp trailers were hard to come by. Yeah.
Shuttler, the water tower inspection is happening soon. I thought it'd been 5 years from my plan, but I just looked at my paperwork. It's been 10 years since they replaced the sacrificial anodes inside of it. So they're coming this month or next, and the scuba divers will go in and take pictures and see if they're gonna have to replace them again, because usually that is kind of like the lifespan. So just an expense we have to keep doing to keep the water tower clean. We're not using very much water in it. We're using less than 1 tank a year actually right now. But trying to keep it going as good as we can. A bunch of street lights are out, so we've been working on that. And just kind of wondering, see what's happening with the previous wheat lab. I talked
That was the other
to
day.
Lisa about that
Oh, my
yesterday.
goodness.
In the Condon library, we talked about the warehouse to be demolished, and I needed to address, and I talked to the librarian because she's been talking to me a lot about, I'm worried about storage for her books every year. After we get everything down, I think she's gonna try to talk to the budget about getting some sort of a storage shed in the back there or something, so they can store their books that they do every year for the 4th of July.
And just so you know, we will have a staff report at the next county court, and Mary Reese, the library director, will be here to give you a report on that, so you'll get more details on her concerns and things.
Okay.
And so we're working on moving out everything in that warehouse right now. That's my goal this month, is to get all of our old furniture out. We're working on that, and there's a Oregon Trail wagon in it. Also, belongs to a citizen that we're trying to get out of there too. So it's a few items. We're trying to clean it out before anything happens. I know it'll probably take longer than we think, but I'm just trying to give myself this month is a good goal, just in case.
I had a question, if it's all right. Please. Daryl and I had been working on, with OSU, cleaning out a little building up at Burns Park. And that's been cleaned out, correct?
Yes, we've kept one shelf and one other cabinet that we can store things in.
Okay. And it's about approximately what size is that building?
Gosh, probably like a 10 by 10.
Okay. So would that be sufficient for Mary's books?
It actually would be.
I mean, it's 2 blocks away, but
Yeah. No,
it's 2
you
blocks
have
away.
You have to move them there all the time, but
Right.
that would actually be the perfect space.
Just an idea.
Yeah. Thank you.
Questions for Daryl?
Questions for Daryl? Because of echo.
I was forgetting.
We've been asking them.
I think we've been asking as we go, so I don't have any further at this time.
All right.
I
Well,
did want to note. I did want to note on the ADA upgrades that I think we have Jeff scheduled to come talk to us during the next meeting to show us the plans and get the go-ahead to put together the RFP. to go out for bid for those. So just wanted to flag that for you, that he's still working on those, and I think we'll have an update here in 2 weeks.
Good,
Okay,
thank you.
All right.
thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Darren.
All right, thanks, Daryl. Okay, commissioners, we're in the home stretch. Let's go into 7.0, which is announcements and next meeting. The next regular meeting is March 17th, so 2 weeks from today. Normally we would hold the last meeting of the quarter in Arlington, so I'm assuming we will continue to do that. Do we want it to be held at the Gronquist building, or what do you guys want to do? I will say I've heard from a couple of people who still are frustrated that they cannot hear when we meet at the Gronquist building.
Problem
So
still
I don't know.
exists. Yeah, the problem still exists even in that little room.
Yeah, it does.
It's
It
there.
hasn't been fixed. Maybe we should go and see if we can use the fire hall.
Yeah, it's always frustrated me when we've got that building and don't use it or can't use it, but it is what it is. And until, hopefully all this goes together and the port can fix that problem, it's a problem.
Is there a room downstairs that we could
Well, there
use?
could be a room downstairs. There
Because
should
the
be a room
acoustics, they
downstairs
say, are better.
Yeah.
No.
And
So they don't have those problems in the bottom.
when we did the candidate forms, they were good.
Yeah, right? Yeah. in
I
the-
think they
in the
have a
bottom.
few pieces of exercise equipment in those.
Well, we don't need a
Maybe
lot
I
of
should,
space.
I don't know, I was
Gotta
wondering, maybe
hear by
I
ourselves.
should look at it, make sure, well, that first room on the right's plenty big enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why don't we do that?
Okay, you're up.
Okay. I'll make,
Check with the current owners and
okay,
see if they'll let us do that.
I got a key.
Oh, well, there you go. We don't have to check. We'll just do it.
If you guys could just, Pat, if you could just let Teresa know what you come up with, and that way we can get it noticed on where it's going to be. But so we'll plan on it being in Arlington, tentatively at the Gronquist building, but maybe downstairs. And then let's go into announcements. Sherry, what do you got?
What do I have? Let's see. I have cross country tomorrow. Oh, no, you're not interested in that. Senator Merkley's having his town hall next Friday at 4:00. So I will be participating in that. And then, this calendar is in very good shape. Of course, Norcor is always the third Thursday, and Capco the last Friday. And then ECAN, there's several trainings and meetings going on with ECAN. So I'm going to try to participate as much as I can in those this month. And then anything else that's coming up with the legislature that I'm trying to keep up on as well.
Sherry, can I double check something you said there to make sure we don't have a date clash? You said
Okay.
Senator Merkley on Friday?
No,
I think
no,
that is
Wednesday. Wednesday,
Okay.
at 10.
I thought you said Friday.
Well, I could have.
Let's just check. So 10.
It was highly possible.
Did they send out any invites for that for the calendar?
I don't
I don't think so, because they've got that meet and greet before too.
Yeah, I thought maybe we would be hearing a little bit more back, but I haven't, so I'll reach out.
I thought Dan had sent you, Dan Marr from Senator's office had sent you an invite.
Did he send an invite?
Yes, because there's a pre-meeting for commissioners and judges at 3:30, and then it goes into the public meeting at 4:00.
I guess I looked at it, but I didn't see the invite, but I'll go check. I'll check.
If you don't have it, let me know and we can help with that.
It's probably there.
Okay, anything further, Sherry?
No, that probably does it for me for today.
All right, Pat, what do you got going on?
Most of the meetings I've been in, you guys have been in. So everybody kind of knows what's going on with the Gronquist, and had the meeting with Painted Hills, and I did, we had a road department meeting last Friday afternoon, first one since COVID. We get that process going, and I don't know, what is the process for filling my position on that committee? And I thought we had something that was gonna be.
That I put on, Dewey, sent an item briefing,
There was some
asking
discussion
for
in the
an
meeting about
appointment.
how I got appointed on there and whether it was posted, all that stuff. I have no clue. And the main thing that's extremely important is as soon as we can is get a resident from the north end of the county on there. And there is a gentleman that's interested, but I didn't know what the process was gonna be to.
I thought it was just automatic as you being appointed the road commissioner that made you a part of the road
I am,
committee.
but we still need
But we
somebody
need
to fill my
take
position.
your
on
Dewey
that.
has
Yeah.
sent something to me for next, he has a recommendation for the next meeting.
Okay.
For someone from the north end. So he sent me an item briefing, but it was dated for the 17th, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, historically, I think when we first, I think we treated it just like our other committees where we publicized it, asked for letters of interest, and then made a selection. So we may, Teresa, want to circle back with Dewey, even if he has a specific person in mind, and still open it up just in case there's other interest out there, just to stay consistent.
It'd be nice to get it opened up, so if there is, we'd have it for the next meeting, if there was any other interest. We have time to do that.
Yes, would that be for me or would that be for Terry to do?
I'm okay with Terry doing it if she can put that together and put it in next week's paper.
And then the only other thing I have is health district meeting next Tuesday.
So to follow up on the town hall, I believe all we've gotten is a informational email telling us when, and then it says that the Zoom information will be provided ahead of the meeting, and we haven't received that yet.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, because it's not on our in the calendar, so. That was the last thing I could see from Dan.
So if you've got something, Lisa, we need it.
I have something because I put it on my calendar. That's
Really?
why I have something. Because
I don't have the
totally
Zoom
excited.
information, I just
No,
have
exactly.
just
So,
that one from Dan is all I could find from February 5th.
I know Dan had to travel out of state on a critical family matter, so
Okay.
I would anticipate that would be, if we haven't got it later this week, then I'll get a hold of him and make sure that gets pushed out to calendars.
Okay, thank you.
Great. And then on my side, I'm just continuing to engage with AOC on their ledge committee and several other committees they've asked me to sit on, their budget and finance and membership committees. So I've been doing that. Also wanted to note that I'm also sitting on Public Transportation Electrification Infrastructure Needs Analysis, or TINA. It's an advisory group to the governor regarding electrification of the transportation grid. And so I was appointed to that as a rural representative to talk about some of the challenges for electric vehicles out here and to sort of put forward policy considerations for the governor and the legislature on ways to address that. Other than that, just standard meetings with CREA this month, and I'm sure at some point we'll have another Frontier Telenet meeting, and I think that is it for me. Anything else for the good of the order?
I'm good.
I think we're good.
All right. Then it's 1:22, and I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.